Board of Directors, November 7th, 2025. Roll call.
Good morning, Board of Directors. I apologize. It's been a little while since I've done this. Taking roll call, Director Pasternak.
Here.
Let it be noted that Director Potter is absent and his absence will be excused. Director Roberts,
Present.
President Vickers,
Present.
and Vice President Axworthy.
Here.
Thank you.
Approval of agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda. As written.
Motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Pledge of Allegiance. Christian, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments.
We have not received any online public comments at this point, and we have not had anyone sign up in person.
Director's comments. Mr. Pasternak?
No comment.
Mr. Roberts?
Currently, I don't have any comments, maybe closing comments.
Mr. Ashworth?
No comment, sir.
I don't have any. Okay, move on to special presentation, and we'll turn it over to Mr. Hein.
Hello, everyone. I think everyone here is aware that we participated in the rate study that Pueblo West put on to determine what rates can and potentially should be for managing finances and for managing capital improvements and just managing the system. So concurrently, I've been developing a project called the Green Space Project. There have been several iterations before Pueblo West, but Pueblo West is the main iteration currently where I'm putting most of my effort. So that's why it's titled the Pueblo West iteration, is because I've worked with other maps before, not with any systems or communities yet, but this is kind of the main debut, so if you wouldn't mind. Now let's see if it plays. It doesn't look like it's gonna. That map it would zoom in on the water plant and show all the different trees in the area, but sometimes you can't plan on that. So if you want to go to the next one, it should show a little bit more. So generally, I'll just start with what the map is and what its potential is. It's a geospatial digital map within the bounds of Pueblo West. It has buildings, trees, and vegetative ground cover classified and split into separate data sets for analysis. So that's the big part there, is buildings, trees, and vegetative ground cover. The data sets were derived from two sources, which one is a publicly available, updated every 3 years, National Agricultural Imagery Program. A key feature of that data set is they're updating it next year during the summer of 2026. So we'll get to what kind of overall goals I have, potentially depending on the response, but all parcels with any month of usage above 10,000 gallons were also discretized and split into individual images with unique identifiers. So that's on the right there. You'll see the green space profile, which is the NAIP data set, which shows vegetation, and then you see the black dots, which are the trees. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. So the big question that I think would probably come forward is why Pueblo West? Why did I choose to work with you guys? And why did I choose to put in a bunch of effort, just even in spite of it potentially not working out? But I wanted to work with someone who I've already kind of been working with. And we've been working obviously on the rate study and concurrently developing the Green Space Project data set. So the semi-arid environment and the water resource potential scarcity also provide a good basis for analysis, because obviously water isn't necessarily given, and if we're better able to understand the capacity of the system to manage its water resources, we should be able to better characterize the usage throughout the system. So the general objective, and then the fourth point there says land use characterization. So we're looking at the map to figure out where vegetation is and where the water being used to water that vegetation is going as well. So the final point, with the right eyes, hands, motivation, this data set can be utilized to improve general operations of the district while enabling targeted rate setting operations. That's really the pivotal point there, is improving general operations and then potentially implementing targeted rate settings operations as well, which I will just do a little caveat. I was discussing it with the rate manager of Denver Water the other day, and I've discussed it with other systems as well, but the biggest thing is he thinks that parcel-based image analysis is also part of the future for municipal management and for utility management. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So that's the big, beautiful map. It's kind of hard for y'all to see there, but hopefully we'll be able to distribute it to you guys so you can look a little bit deeper at it. But as you can see, all the blue dots there, all trees. I think I counted 25,000 trees, and the biggest caveat there is they're all above 10 feet. They aren't short trees shorter than 10 feet, so 25,000 trees over 10 feet is what I counted. So what we can do now is that we can quantify vegetative ground and canopy cover from district to the parcel scale. So all the district to parcel, just statistics all the way through. We can derive landscape water demand versus build usage for efficiency scoring, which is also one of the methods that hopefully we'll be able to derive as we move forward. Detect potential leak indicators, so that's to save water. You're able to necessarily look where vegetation exists and it shouldn't. And then we can support rate tier calibration using RevPlan, which is the tool that we've already used to implement the rate study, using actual irrigation statistics. We can also, this is one of the most reasonable immediate outputs, is you can enable targeted outreach for top consuming parcels or neighborhoods. And then finally provide baseline metrics for operations such as where trees are, where the ground cover exists, and next slide, please. I think that's mostly it. So then we also have policy and future potential. On the right, you'll see the map of the golf course. I think I may have showed you guys that at the last presentation that I did, but the idea is, number one, we want to create a comprehensive land use model for Pueblo West operations. This is something that most utilities and most municipalities don't have access to. So if we were able to set the standard on how we can integrate geospatial data and remote sensing imagery even better, it could be a worthwhile endeavor. Irrigation efficiency scores, we kind of went over that before, for conservation and resource tracking. We can support regional water resource planning and tracking with Pueblo West as the benchmark. Integrate data set into future rate structures for conservation and sustainability practices, and build a transparent database process for stakeholder understanding. That is probably one of the biggest parts, is the more data you have, especially if it's based in reality, the more trustworthy and the more transparent you're going to be for your stakeholders. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So now we're going to go into some statistics. We have 23,849 trees above 10 feet, 1.67 trees above 10 feet per parcel, 17.78 feet for those trees. We have roughly 2,224 acres of irrigated, or I should say irrigable area, because I can't guarantee it's irrigated. 24,585 acres of non-irrigated, making it so that roughly 8.5% of all the area in Pueblo West is irrigable, meaning that it has a vegetative standard above a certain threshold. So this kind of gets us to where I think the timeline moves, because I'm not asking for any decisions today. My idea is to give you guys the data set and then give the engineering firm that you guys work with the data set as well. I'm not charging for it. It's just one of those things where I want to get people's hands on it to see its potential. So we have, I would say, until next rate structure, a rate season, which I think generally occurs in October, it's a good idea to start trying to develop processes around the data set because vegetation is very important in water. We have one summer for collecting pertinent data on vegetation before the next iteration of the data set, which again is 2026 NAIP and LIDAR data. And hopefully this leaves us plenty of time to engage with system stakeholders. And finally, the future of utility management truly is data. And I want to push that and I want to make it the standard. But all the common denominator between all these data sets is spatial and time. It's space and time. So if we're able to combine the temporal and the spatial element of the system and the utility, I think it should provide for a lot more easy decisions and facilitated processes. Knowledge is never a bad thing. Well, I can't say that for sure. There's times where it
Depends
can
on
be
the
a bad
knowledge.
thing, yeah. But in this case, data knowledge, knowing where things are, knowing where the water resources are going, I think it should improve standards of operation. It should save money in the long run. It seems, this is where the idea kind of came from, is it's just to have more information and have publicly available data sets that you can just use willy-nilly, very cool. And I'm happy to be able to provide you guys with the opportunity to look at it. That's all I've got. Add me on LinkedIn.
Joshua?
Josiah.
Josiah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Who do you actually work for?
I work for Colorado Rural Water. I realized I didn't put that on there. I'm wearing my Colorado Rural Water
Yeah, I
Association
can't read it
shirt.
from here. even
Yeah,
with
totally my
reading
bad.
glasses.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got a question for you. I mean, you're identifying property owners who over 10,000 gallons of usage.
Mm-hmm.
Would you seem to think that might be a violation of privacy?
Well, I mean, in terms of
If it's-
publicly
if it's
available
published
data,
Publicly, yes.
yeah, this data, that data specifically is not publicly available. The only publicly available data is parcel boundaries, and then, I mean, census data as well. But then the main point of it is not the parcel data, it's the imagery. So the ultimate idea is you integrate usage from the utility so that you can determine where water's going, and you can essentially, you can derive algorithms to look at like total water usage, total irrigable area, and then derive what's inside versus outdoor water usage, if that makes sense. That's kind of one of the main points that I think I forgot to mention as well.
And this is your area of expertise, correct?
Yep.
So you used a lot of acronyms?
Oh, did I? Yeah.
Yeah, so in that case, our general public who is watching this, I would ask that in the future that you explain each of your acronyms and identify them with a definition. So
Yeah,
the
that's
public, because it'll go right over their head. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the things you said went right over my head.
Yeah.
I mean, I could ask you more questions about every one of those acronyms, but for the sake of timing, just in the future, we could define all that.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. It's something I always strive to do, and sometimes you make mistakes, but acronyms are also sometimes the bane of my existence. I'm like, why are you saying acronyms if I have no idea what they mean? I appreciate the insight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have a question. So with this data, what you're doing is showing us where water is, right? With the green.
Yep.
With the
But
green.
you can derive water through vegetative analysis.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do we apply this information? Because we know where water's going based on our
Utility bills.
water bills.
Well, I mean, you have ideas of where it's going. It's another data set to say where things are. The more variables and the more parameters you have in a system, the more you can say what is closer to reality. You can never, unfortunately, with data say where exactly things are, because there's always the unknown. But the thing is, the more data you have, the more you can derive the way that things actually are. So it's not trying to replace meters. It's not trying to replace the general infrastructure of knowing where things are. It's trying to provide more evidence of where things are, if that makes sense, especially in terms of where outdoor water usage is actually occurring. which I know it's hard to go over all of it in 15 minutes, but obviously conservation is a major endeavor here, trying to make sure that we know where water is being used outdoors so that we aren't wasting it, especially in the a semi-arid environment, you know. So with that factor involved, it's just sustainability is the main goal, to make sure that we have as much data as we can to make the most sustainable decisions that we possibly can. And the data set's there, you know, it's done. There's a lot more inferences that we can gain out of it, but I think sending it to the engineering firm, putting potentially the tree map in like your field maps would be a really good place to start. It's one of those things where I just wanted to put it on the radar so that we can start making decisions before next rate season, if that makes sense. Because the data set's there.
I guess I'm a little confused. What type of decisions are you looking to make based on where trees are, or how many trees there are? Or
Yeah.
what
So, I mean, it's
practical applicability?
the practical application, especially with trees, you can reference where certain landmarks are by trees. That's an immediate observable I guess inference you can make. But the biggest thing is you do have to do some extrapolation, and you have to figure out how much water is being used outdoor on a per parcel basis. So again, the data publicity and the openness of the data will come into account. And I have an ethics statement that I wrote a little while ago, just saying where all the data is coming from, where it's going, who's seeing it, when they're seeing it, you know. So I have an ethics statement, but the biggest thing is definitely privacy when it comes to public data, private data, especially when it comes to usage, because you don't want that to be public. But I'll take a step back. The idea is to derive outdoor water usage in order to characterize total system usage. So right now we can't derive immediately what outdoor water usage is. The main immediate deliverable is having a vegetation map and knowing where things are. So if that makes sense.
Just to add to that, think of it almost as an information layers, like what our rates and what our bills show is each person here has a water bill. Yours might be extremely high, yours might be low, yours might be average, yours might be average. We don't know if what's coming from his high bill might be vegetation, them doing outdoor watering. We could obviously drive by and hopefully see that. Questions of invasion of privacy when it comes to 35,000 residents or 23,000 households or anything that comes from that. But this added another layer of information to say, based on a vegetative map showing where these densities are, you could say, let's say they both had high ones, he has vegetation but he doesn't. That can help influence or infer for his inferences. What he's talking about is that if we were looking at a conservation plan to reduce the amount of vegetation, to reduce the overall water consumption within the district, we could determine based on those instances how many people are using it because they have a lot of outdoor vegetation versus they're using it for other reasons. At least one additional layer of information through that model.
Well put.
You can extrapolate that. I'm not trying to be argumentative or anything. I'm just trying to understand the benefit of. Can you distinguish between groundwater and surface water application?
I mean, in terms of regional,
For greenness. I mean, there's areas that stay
seasonality.
green.
Yeah, just due to like the water cycle, right? The structure of the streams. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the natural weather cycle. So I imagine
Mm.
you'd have to do something like this every month to get an idea of.
Yeah, so it is pretty heavily dependent on when the data is taken and how much irrigation, I guess natural irrigation has occurred, meaning from the water cycle rather than from like human application. Right. So the data set that I took was from 2023. That is the most concurrent and the most up-to-date NDVI, aka the National Agricultural Imagery Program. That's their most recent data set. The next one exists in 2026, and you do have to put in some like preliminary kind of like boundary conditions that the weather was this during the time of collection, which I did. The weather was in 2023. I think that when I did the research, I found that it was a standard season, like the time when they took it, which is over a period of a week. was standard greenness, standard level of, I guess, vegetation, irrigation naturally. So, yeah, I know there are a lot of steps in between now and when this is usable, but I think it's one of those things where the data set is in a usable state right now. And before I went forward and just started doing all my own analytics, I wanted to get other people's eyes on it because I just recognize it's at a point where it can finally be used by other people. Whereas before now it hasn't been usable. It's been mostly just me trying to derive different statistics for people to use. So the biggest thing, I'll just tell you, the most recent step was with the canopy cover, the trees, identifying trees and moving forward with that. And once that was done, it's like, well, the ground cover is classified, the trees are classified. That's all you can necessarily get out of it other than buildings, and we already have the building data set. So it's just, yeah, I think that is an important part to remember is like, I'm not selling you anything. It's more just, I want to get hands and eyes on it. And I think that the best way to facilitate that is by putting either certain aspects in the field maps for your field operations, and then also starting to move forward on identifying, I guess, spatial characteristics and vegetative characteristics of individual parcels. Which, I mean, I just want to keep saying, because I want to keep ethics and privacy very important. It's a high priority. So parcel information and personal data from individual users will be always kept private.
Yeah, I can see it as a benefit to cross-reference with our building, our building, potential high water users, and
Yeah.
because we can pretty much identify that
Yeah.
now. It would be nice to see if they actually support each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look at their irrigation statistics. Look at their lawns from space. I guess it's not from space. It's from an airplane. It's aerial imagery rather than satellite imagery, but imagery nonetheless. So, I mean, I think I don't know if there are any other questions, but I think that it is a great opportunity. The data is there. It's just, like Christian was saying, it's a layer on top of what you're doing. You know, it's not meant to replace anything or act as a certain base of operations. It's just supposed to augment. It's supposed to improve. It's not an individual thing that's supposed to change everything. It might.
I can see if water was very scarce, then it
Yeah.
would be valuable information. My questions would be more for the water team at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you.
Yeah, anytime. I love to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I think I will step off for now.
No, sounds good. Really appreciate you, Zach.
Anytime.
Thank you, Josiah.
13th agenda, and I tried to go to different. That's what I did.
Breaking things.
Yeah, give me the stone tablet.
Stand by for technical difficulties.
What's that?
Stand by for technical
Technical
difficulties.
difficulty. You can go. You can keep moving. She's just trying to fire up my computer.
Okay, we will go to our discussion items then. Our first one is the personnel policy with Jessica Pinky.
All right. Good morning, Board of Directors. I am Jessica Pinky. I am here to talk to you about the policy changes that we are suggesting going into 2026. To give you a little information about how this comes about, throughout the year, I'm talking to managers and employees about our policies, and if throughout the year we feel there needs to be any clarification or anything like that, I make note. I also talk to the executive leadership team about any ideas they may have. And then once we get closer to the end of the year, I request for volunteers to join the Personnel Policy Committee. And so at the top of your cheat sheet, I did list everybody who was on the committee, and that might not be the updated one. That's the old one. Yeah. So on the committee, we had Tim Mitchell, one of our deputy fire chiefs, Yanetta Smith in COA, Joe Polisco, one of our firefighters, Lisa Amos, our payroll and senior accounting technician, Louis Vigil, our HR generalist, Justin Carpenter, another firefighter, Marcos Reyes, our economic support specialist, and Lindsay Fest, one of our admin assistants in support operations. So try to get a variety of different levels of employees within the district to give their input. And so I did create you a cheat sheet that is going over the major changes. Some of the minor changes of like clarifying language or fixing something is in the big document, so feel free to go through the big document and look at those minor ones. But I tried to condense the major changes into one sheet for you so you don't have to go searching for them. Katrina, do you want me to email you?
I have it. I'm trying
Okay.
to pull it up.
So the first one that is showing on the screen right now is, I didn't make any changes to that one. So that is on page 11 of the big document, section 1.12, off-duty conduct. The black text there was already in the policy, so I just added C. And that is involving criminal activity or convictions, particularly those related to theft, fraud, drugs, violence, bodily harm, or other offenses that may adversely affect the employee's ability to perform their job duties, the safety of others, or the integrity and reputation of the district. And what that does is that gives us an opportunity to at least look, if an employee gets a new conviction, to at least look at that and make sure that there's no risk involved with the position that they hold with the district.
I'm trying to get it on this. 1 second.
Okay.
So on the big document that's marked draft,
Yes.
we can look at that.
Yep, absolutely. And I did leave it as draft until hopefully it is adopted.
And everything in red is the new stuff.
Yes, all the red is the changes.
I appreciated the cheat sheet.
I figured that would be helpful. It's easier for me too, because I mean, it's such a big document. So I figured condense it down to the major stuff. The second one that's showing up there is still also correct. And so that's on page 11, 1.15. And that's reporting new conviction, and that kind of ties back to the previous change on 1.12 of then just, if you get a new conviction, you need to let us know about it so we can look at that again to make sure that the position that they hold is not causing any risk to what that conviction might be.
Bear with me, guys. This computer doesn't have the Microsoft Word, and so I'm trying to convert it real quick and get it uploaded.
Are there any questions about the cover material so far?
Okay. I think it's really just the very last thing on this document that I changed, so we'll go ahead and talk through them all, and then hopefully by the last one, it's up and running. So on page 25, or no, page 11, 4.3 paid time off policy, I added just one line to that section, and that is PTO may not be used after an employee submitted their notice of resignation unless otherwise approved by management. And the reason why we added this in is because we've noticed over the last couple of years that somebody will give their notice, and then they're on PTO for those 2 weeks or most of those 2 weeks. And really the whole point of giving notice is so you can hand your duties over, make sure other people are trained on those duties. We do understand that things might be coming up, maybe they're moving, so they need to take a couple of days to go take care of that, but we really want them here for that notice so that they're here handing over those duties over to somebody else, so.
And the district pays out PTO, right? Whatever
Yes,
they have accrued
whatever
anyway,
they've
so-
accrued. So we did change that in the policy last year, that we only pay out what they've accrued. That's
Right.
caused some turmoil this year. But also not wanting people to overuse that PTO because they know that they're going to lose it. So sometimes they'll take that in their last 2 weeks to make sure they're overusing. So trying to prevent that.
And the PTO encompasses this vacation time?
Yes, vacation and sick is all in one
All
bucket.
one pot?
Yep.
Is it, do they accrue it through the year, or is it given at the beginning of the year for the whole year?
Correct. So we give it to them up front at the beginning of the year. Benefit of the district, you get it up front. You can use it how you see fit. But if you choose to leave the district or you terminate employment, we only pay out what you would have accrued through that month.
Okay.
Right. And that's what we changed last year.
That's what we changed
Is there a
last year.
cap on the PTO?
A cap, yes.
What is that?
So they can roll 80 over to the next year, and then depending on how many years they've been with the district, they get a certain amount. So it starts at 120, and then once they've been with her 15 years, it goes up to 224.
So do you think this policy is going to incentivize people using their PTO prior to turning in their letter of resignation?
That was something that was discussed, and there is a chance that that could happen, but trying to prevent that as much as possible by doing the payout of accrual, only what you've accrued, and then also this. So if they overuse, then they just don't get that PTO payout when they leave.
Do we have a catch-22 clause in there that would, if it's identified that you used all this PTO prior to your resignation, they'd have to pay it back?
It's not currently in there, and I don't
think-
know
I don't
how
think you
legal
can do
that
that.
is.
Yeah,
Legal challenges, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, and just to add some context for why we both give it up front and also why we introduce the accrual monthly when they terminate, is before situations where if they're accruing per month and they're getting the max of their PTO maybe towards the end of the year, what we're noticing is a lot of people will then bulk across the district, try and take their PTO to the end of the year. Putting it up front allows them to find and plan for their entire year. Ideally, that would be people and obviously management dictating or determining when they should take it, so that way we maintain coverage. But when we didn't have that accrual process, what would happen is people would wait until the turn of the year, get their full benefits, and then announce their retirement within a month or 2 weeks, and create those situations where that.
Or everybody takes it at the same time.
Exactly,
Right,
exactly the thing we're
right.
trying to.
No, I
So
experienced the
this,
same thing at the
Yeah.
Federal Bureau of Prisons, supervising 173 people, and you always got those that's gonna abuse the system. So how do you develop a deterrent to that?
yeah.
So that's
Always,
why I was asking.
always looking for refinement. Appreciate the idea.
Yeah.
We can always run it up to see if there's anything that other people do, to see if there's ways to catch that. But recognizing as it's a benefit might come in a challenge.
Currently, the federal government just dropped the American Federation of Governmental Employees master agreement, so they could hire and fire as they choose.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they're not, their hands aren't tied anymore as far as the HR department filling positions, so. Yeah.
There's no designation between vacation and sick leave as far as accrual. So I get the 2 week, you know, if you've earned your 2 weeks vacation, you're entitled to that.
Right,
But we don't earn the sick leave as they work.
correct.
There are pros and cons to combining them together. One of the big things is, you might be able to articulate this better than I can, but if it's actually their sick and their holiday put into one versus the two separate, there's certain things you can't do when it comes to their earned benefit that when they're combined that you have the ability to do because they are combined. So it protects us a little bit of that, but I don't know if you can articulate better, and if not, we can follow up.
I was gonna say, yeah, you did it pretty well,
Okay.
but yes, we can follow up as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's different rules
Mhm.
attached to PTO versus sick time.
Right. Okay.
I think this is updated document.
Yes, that's it. Thank you very much. Okay, the next one on our cheat sheet is going to be page 25. We added in a section 7.11, unpaid time off. Within the policy, it does talk about being able to take unpaid time off. We don't really define what that looks like, how long you can take unpaid time off for. So this is sort of giving us the opportunity to evaluate somebody who needs to take unpaid time off. It does have to go through the department director, human resources, and the district manager, but they can grant up to 6 months of unpaid time off leave. The employee is still responsible for paying their portion of their benefits, but that is if they've, maybe they don't qualify for FMLA, but they do have to utilize all of their benefits that they can use first before unpaid time off can even be considered. And it looks like Christian's going to chime in. Go ahead.
Just for context, this came up as situations have occurred throughout, I think, multiple years where, there are coverages obviously for paid time off, people taking that off. There's FMLA where there are specific conditions where people, if they have their own medical condition or family member, immediate family member, I believe, when they take it off. But let's say it's a grandparent, let's say it's a close friend, somebody you're living with. There are those situations that don't qualify for some of those. They exhaust their PTO. And we've done donation policy recently added to it, so that way we have another way to balance the PTO within the district. This is just, and it's up for discussion and feedback on it. As those situations come up, this gives an option for, the district isn't paying them for not working essentially, but that allows them to essentially take up to 6 months, not saying that everybody's guaranteed, especially if it comes into essential services, but gives that flexibility to do it in case if we evaluate it as losing this person having them not be able to take that off, they leave the district, and now we have to refill that position, train them, and get them back in. Is this a more cost appropriate way to be able to balance that in those rare situations that might occur? So that's where the idea came from, and open to feedback and discussion on it.
I guess it also would depend on the position, right?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
So example being like a firefighter versus a admin staff, very different mission needs, mission orientations, and their work requirements. A fire chief might evaluate that very differently than a HR director for a position for there, whether it would be suitable to even allow or improve that.
So basically, you're extending the scope of FMLA to allow for people to be off of work for up to 6 months and protect their position.
Essentially, for the idea of benefiting the district, if it is in that situation beneficial for the district to do so.
And who decides that?
HR department head and district manager.
But their job is not guaranteed.
No. And for instance, a good one would be a firefighter might have a shift at Fire Station 1. Even if they go off on that unpaid time off, it's not guaranteed they'll come back at that exact same shift either.
I don't like it. In general, I don't like
You
it.
either?
No, I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, what's to stop me from doing this just because I want to go to India and find myself, or to
Well,
Hopefully
the
an
goal
HR
is,
department director and
like
yeah.
it's just I want to go on a hike. I really want to go on a hike, so I'm out of PTO, and
I-
I mean, I think you hire people to get a job done, not to not show up and not get paid. I mean, what if half the district wanted to do this?
I think between the DM, the HR director, and the department head, there is the evaluation of exactly what the impact would be.
I think it still sets the wrong tone. It's just,
So
The other thing I'm
You're-
worried
you're-
about is that it puts the two of you in a position where people can assign favoritism, saying you're going to allow this person to do it, but not this person.
Mhm.
Who's to decide if that's right or not?
And
I-
sin-
That's the dangerous part, I would say.
yeah,
and since it'd be unpaid, we're not losing money. I mean, would we contract somebody to come in, do an extra shift?
in a
at
sense, we are
the Fire station
losing
or,
money though.
or as an admin?
You would probably at the very least lose productivity for
Right.
what that position would be. I think it's, for up to 6 months, I think it's unlikely, with the exception of one example where I can think of with the fire academy, where we had an additional person who had gone through the academy, but there wasn't a guaranteed position, where it was like, while somebody was out, and I think they were out on FMLA, where we had an opportunity to be able to backfill a position for that, but it didn't guarantee them a position once that person returned back. That's the only time where I think that we've had a situation that would require us, or not require, but be beneficial to still backfill. Loss of productivity occurs absolutely with losing any position within the district. And very fair to say that it does create that situation. It could be inconsistent based on evaluation, without a protection like FMLA does, that these are the exclusive ways that you can benefit from it.
At least that's law.
Yeah.
This
Fall
way
back
you're
on.
putting it just on your shoulders.
I'm just curious, since we have the fire chief, Brian Caserta here, if you could give us some insight of what this policy and how it would impact your department, which is public safety.
Good morning, Brian Caserta, Fire Chief. I would have to say I'm going to put us in a position that this would benefit us in the fact that there's no district policy right now that prohibits an employee to be off even beyond that 6 months. We are in a situation, or we had been in a situation, where we have had a firefighter off for legitimate medical reasons, and we have been holding that position for nearly a year. That places a burden on the other firefighters and our staff, because we have to replace that position every rotation of their shift. And whether we deny someone else the ability to use their PTO so that we're not compromising the shift staffing levels, but it gives us an endpoint. Like, we understand the situation you're in. We're willing to work with you, but up to what point? And I believe the committee was trying to define what point that that situation should be terminated. And so honestly, I think this is a good thing for the district. Obviously, the firefighters is a very important position. It's not one that we can just say, well, we'll just let it remain unfilled. It's a true position that on a daily basis needs to be filled. And if we allow that to go on and continue on with an undetermined amount of time, it leaves the district in a liability.
So FMLA defines that. So you have, your job is protected for 6 months, and then depending on the policy of the organization, they can award a year or whatever the case might be. But that by law, we have to follow that. So what this policy is talking about, or this proposed policy is talking about extending the boundaries of not just medical need for immediate family or personal, whatever the case might be, to any reason, right? As deemed necessary by the district manager and the HR supervisor. So I think that's the hard part. I think we'd be letting somebody off for 6 months to go back to school or get a degree or work on that, and then we would pay them, we would give them a raise for finishing that degree while they're taking the time off, and we're paying extra labor to bring in a temp to fill the same position. And again, that just puts the liability on the two of you as far as who determines that and what's the justification for it. I could see lawsuits in the end saying, well, they denied my leave because they're picking on me or whatever the case might be. It just puts you guys in a bad position.
We also have family too in
We do.
Colorado.
We are.
That's-
So
Good for
we
you.
did opt out as a district, but
Yeah.
employees can still sign up for family
Oh,
leave and
good
take
for
the
you.
benefit.
Yeah, FMLA is already there. I'm not in favor of this.
I don't like it myself either.
0%.
Just too many what ifs there. Even if you were to try it, I would say maybe for a 2-year period, but we don't have any statistics of how many times there's been an occurrence where an employee needed that extra within the district to even imagine how this would impact us. And now that we approve an extra 6 months, I could just see it being abused.
So with your situation with the person on medical leave, we're really, to your point, we're obligated, or under state law, we have to allow the 6 months, right?
Mhm.
12
So-
weeks.
12 weeks,
Mhm.
3 months.
Yeah,
Okay.
Is it 12 weeks or 6
it's
months?
12 weeks.
Job is protected for 6
Job
months.
is protected for 12 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So why have we continued to allow someone to go a year?
He was taking short-term disability. There's been a lot of things that have kind of led us to being in this place. And so that's where we thought that if we had something in writing saying you can only take unpaid time for X 3 months, 2 months, whatever that is, then we have an endpoint at that point.
But this person had paid for disability, right?
Mhm.
So this policy doesn't impact them. If you've paid for disability insurance, you can take the time off. So that's my point. This policy really doesn't impact those situations that fall under state law or things that they're allowed to do. So
I think from our standpoint, and I'm speaking for fire because it's an essential position. It is placing also a financial burden, not only, not financial burden. It is placing a burden on the department, but it's also placing a financial burden on the district because we are increasing the cost to backfill that position 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 14, whatever, because we don't have a defined endpoint.
To what Jess brought up early on is that and I think Brian highlighted it, is that there isn't a defined policy currently And so in the situation of it allows for unpaid time off to be taken within the current policy, there probably should be either a cap or recognition of what that could look like. To what you're talking about, President Vickers, is this is expanding or extending beyond what that situation is.
Mhm.
It's opening up for the ability for cases like the grandparent or the India trip to be able to be done in those cases, but they should be evaluated because the ultimate goal is to ensure that whoever you would be approving that for, it's based on an actual district business need that will be more beneficial for it. But I recognize that the concern is that it could not be evaluated consistently when it comes to the potential for lawsuits that could come from, or a concern of it still creates that position of unproductivity for that time. So, and if there's still obviously questions and discussion, but I think we'd like just to get feedback from here is if there is a sense of what that would be like, what we would like to see in that before Monday in case we need to make a modification, just guidance before you finalize the document.
Yeah, I kind of see both sides of the coin, but I also see that, employment is actually a contract between the employer and the worker, and, you've agreed to work to get your paycheck, and part of that is showing up. Of course, there are always medical issues, but, private sector people face those kinds of things all the time and have to deal with it with companies that don't provide these types of things, so I'd be kind of hesitant to just open it up wide myself.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. If I may chime in real quick, Katrina Peter, Chief Administrative Officer. I think the ultimate goal is we're trying to, like Jessica said, is we're trying to establish an endpoint for unpaid PTO. And so if somebody's out and they don't qualify for FMLA, they run out of PTO, is there a board decision as to at what point we are going to say that the district as a whole is going to have a policy that says you cannot go beyond X amount of time unpaid time off. And one of the things that we have to factor in is if we terminate and somebody could come back to work after a week or after 2 weeks or after a month, we started a whole new cycle of having to go through and try to fill that position, try to train that position. And sometimes that's more costly than just retaining that person for that period of time. So I think what we're looking back for at this point is just feedback from the board as what is the cutoff? We need a cutoff. What is it?
I agree with that. I face the same problems where I work. Can you attach this policy to FMLA circumstance so that you're limiting, if someone goes out on FMLA, their job is perfected for the 12 weeks?
So long as they're qualified, approved by an FMLA reason.
Qualifying event.
This applies in the situation once FMLA runs out.
And then that way, you already have the purpose for why they're out, and it's legally covered. So you're just allowing them to extend that to a 6-month period of
Yeah.
unpaid leave. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We
and I
can
think-
tie it to a medical issue, a medical reason.
FMLA approved reasoning.
Okay.
And then the only other thing we might want to workshop is just a general unpaid time off cap within a certain year. For instance, you cannot take more than 2 weeks or 30 days in a year of unpaid time off. Otherwise, that could qualify for something, termination or.
Yeah, I'd have to talk to our HR department how they handle that.
We can workshop that piece, take that back, and figure out what could be a cap for it. Because that is the other concern of what Katrina, I think everybody's about now. The idea that if there is no cap right now, it's left to a lot of discretion. And to your point, how they could be inconsistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
How broad is FMLA? It's pretty broad, isn't it?
It is
For ours, it
I
is,
mean,
It's killer on Manning.
You can pretty much use about
Putting
anything
people
for
in
that
positions.
reason. You can stay home and take care of your wife for a newborn baby.
And do DoorDash.
So it's incapacity due to pregnancy, prenatal medical care, or childbirth, to care for an employee's child after birth or placement for adoption or foster care, to care for an employee's spouse, son, or daughter, or parent who has a serious health condition, and then a serious health condition that makes the employee unable to perform their job. So those are
I think
reasons.
if they're, just in general, I don't know where this fits in, but if there's, if there's something, if you have a child, you have a newborn baby and there's the baby's sick, it's, okay, there's time off for that. But if you just want to stay home and change diapers, no. I don't know where that fits in, but that's my take.
There was tons of people during COVID who were sent home to work from home. And at the same time, they had no means of monitoring or tracking how many people were working from home versus driving in their car and delivering food from door to door or groceries during COVID. And there are statistics online with that.
Well, it's not that they're double dipping, they're not getting paid. This is unpaid.
Right, I understand that, but at the same time, we're extending them the privilege of taking this opportunity. I mean, if there's a legitimate medical reason and it's linked to that, I'm for that, but
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be more defined what you guys can approve.
So I think to
Yeah,
his,
we're gonna-
to his point, and I give a little bit of thought and discussion for this, if we adjust that verbiage to say that this unpaid time off can continue based on any qualifying reason for FMLA that is already approved up to a certain time, let's say it is the 6 months, that sounds like it would be, to your point, the medical reason, the qualifying reason, that's not just going back and doing it for purposes that aren't approved by FMLA, and cap that. The only question we'll have to workshop is what does our constraint on true unpaid time off look like? We might have to take some more time to talk about that. So that's
For any reason.
For what you
So
think.
like
Any
an
of the-
Yeah.
So it's basically an extension of FMLA.
Correct.
And we do the same.
Is that a fair ask to revisit that language for Monday and have it prepared so that way, as long as it applies to that?
Yeah, I think.
Are there any,
As long as that policy is attached to FMLA, I think we're in good shape.
is up to 6 months sound fair as far as that, since it would be, I'm assuming 12 weeks is FMLA, it would be 6 months subtracted that, help me. That's
It'd be another 3.
3 months, thank you, to qualify for it.
do we have a statement in there that tells the employee that your job is not guaranteed?
I imagine if we put it for there, we would keep the same protections FMLA would be our goal, so that is,
Yeah.
I think, protecting the job up to that 6 months.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it guarantees their shift or their
Correct.
assignment, does it?
Oh, FMLA?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So that'd be the similar caveats, or keep those unless dictated otherwise.
Because the term that we used was mission critical. You know, so if it's mission critical, we gotta make sure it's filled, so.
Okay. So we'll work on drafting some new language and we'll bring that on Monday. The next one, page 28, 7.19, we added in the administrative rest pay that the board approved for the utilities department. So it's really just condensing down that document to one paragraph, kind of defining that within the policy. So that's what that is. And then the last one here is on page 40. We added in a section about gratuities. We have gotten word that employees may be taking tips while out there in the field. And so this policy is, we should not be taking tips from the community members while we're out there doing our work. So it's kind of defining that for us. It does talk about gifts. So we kind of, in the third paragraph there, defined unsolicited gifts. Occasionally, like some vendors will, like Benefit Broker will send a basket of cookies at Christmas time for the district. So this is not limiting anything like that. It's just limiting personal gifts or tips or gratuities that would be benefiting the person.
What about cookies after they fix your water line?
No, they shouldn't be doing that. So that is what this policy is trying to define, but I will take any feedback that you have on it.
What role did the employees on the committee, what role did they have in the?
So
What was the purpose
they
of that?
reviewed the full personnel policy and gave feedback on current policies, but then also helped me with drafting the new policies. And if they agreed, disagreed, had any feedback for those things. And so some things were removed that they didn't like, some things were added in that they did like. But yeah, whatever feedback they had. And then I did ask them to also go back to their departments and talk about it with their departments, and if their department had any concerns with anything, to let me know.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate here real quick. What triggered this policy?
we had employees taking tips in the field.
And what departments were those predominantly employed with?
Do I want to call out the department?
Public service? Public service?
It was the water department, yes.
Somebody fixed somebody's vein at 1 a.m. in the morning, right?
I don't remember the exact circumstances of it all. I just got word that, and I just feel that we are public servants and we're already getting paid by taxpayer dollars. We should not be taking their tip money when
Almost
fixing
sounds
their
like a
stuff.
Hatch Act violation, so I was just curious.
Okay. Well, that's all the major changes. So we'll work on the unpaid time off section. I'll bring that back on Monday. But I appreciate your time and the feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
I don't know where I got 6 months from.
Remodel plans.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, good morning again. Brian Caserta, Fire Chief. We're here to discuss the options related to the Fire Station 1, I'll say renovation / and/or new construction wing. As you may recall, several months ago, we were asked to have RS&H, I'm trying to get used to the new one. RS&H to provide you a set of plans that were a basic floor plan, concept plan of what it would look like if we put an addition that would be somewhat detached, but yet it has to be somewhat attached through breezeways, allowing access into the fire apparatus base for taking emergency equipment and such out. So RS&H has been able to provide that set of floor plans. Within your packet also was a description of what we were looking at, if you recall, from the original renovation plans that was approved in the 2025 budget, to not add on, but to renovate the existing main administration living quarters area of the building with maybe I think it was around 400 square feet bump out, which is the overhang on the east side of the building on the front. So that's what we're here to discuss today. I am happy to start entertaining questions if you've reviewed the information. Tino was with me from RS&H to answer questions related to the design concept floor plans that were developed, and I'll just open it up to you for questions.
If I could just add real quick, Christian J. Hine, District Manager. Today's discussion and then Monday's action, what really I believe will key in on after discussion here, is recognizing this is a concept that's being provided. We do have the design plan for the actual renovation coming to completion, and that will obviously be a set that can be put out. The question will be, should this concept translate into full design plans, and what will the process be for which we will do that, if we want to do that either in place of or in addition to the renovation idea. So this is that element of it. We already approved the contract mod for the design renovation itself. So just as far as the discussion today.
Chris?
So essentially, are you saying that, are you saying that we need to make a decision on who the design contract would go to, or if we're going to remain with the same company, or
One of the pieces that we'll have to ask is, if we want to translate this concept into actual design plans, do we want to continue with RS&H? Do we want to put that out for a separate bid, assuming RS&H can and is open to doing that? or do I put it out on a new bid process, since this one, I think, originally took place back in 2021? That sound about right?
Yes.
As far as the previous one. Not say that full discussion, obviously, plans and everything, but that's ultimately the decision we'll be looking for.
Gotcha.
I got a couple questions. In regards to the layout and the breezeway, are we gonna have to bring up the rest of the fire station to code because of the breezeways?
No, we will
No.
not.
You're talking
So
about the main,
we're not
the
gonna-
existing building right now, right?
Huh?
You're talking about the existing building right now?
Right.
Yeah, no,
Remember,
sir.
we did the remodel, we were gonna have to upgrade everything, correct?
Right, that is
Did we-
correct.
Yeah, so,
The
That
existing
was-
building as it sits today will not have to have the upgrades to the newer systems and things like that. Because all the living quarters will be over on the other side.
so the doors between the breezeway and the motor bay, are we gonna use existing doors or we're gonna use push bar doors for response?
One of the doors, the one next to the stairwell, if you can zoom in on that, that is an existing door. So we anticipate using that existing opening. We would probably replace the door with new hardware so that it can be pushed open and it can be part of that response. The one on the plan north side would be a new door opening.
I'm trying to remember, does that door open to the outside or is it open to the inside?
It opens towards the outside.
Should go out.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
You would need one that would open to the inside. Correct?
Yes, for the response.
response.
Ideally, that's what we would do. We did not show it that way. We kept the existing one. We would actually recommend switching it out the other way. But we are keeping the existing for
I mean,
show.
we could demo that and put in a new frame with a door that opens to the inside.
Yes.
Would that be considered a remodel of the existing building?
It shouldn't be.
No.
Think so.
It doesn't affect enough of the existing building to trigger any of the upgrades that would be done if we were doing a full renovation. So for instance, we were providing, in the original concept, when we were renovating the existing, we were providing a new fire sprinkler system for the entire building. We wouldn't have to do that with this new concept. The fire sprinklers would only be applied in the addition. They wouldn't have to extend into,
Okay, so we're looking at cost savings even with having replaced the door and the frame.
yes.
Okay, thank you. That answer your question, Bill?
My question? I haven't started on
Looks
my, I
adjoined.
haven't started on my
It
question.
looks
What's-
adjoined.
What's the,
I just have a couple of questions, before we get into the longer discussion, maybe. So with this addition, as you have it mapped out, that will satisfy everything that you're looking to do for this fire station?
Yes, sir. As far as the dormitory space, the eating space, all the ADA compliances that we have to meet, all of those things, this layout will meet that.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get at is like in another 2 years, we're not looking to look at another remodel, this will be it. This is-
As far as the firefighter living quarters and all that goes, yes, this will meet all of those things that we're looking to get and obtain.
So without what else do we need to remodel beyond the living quarters then? What are we getting at here?
Well, it would certainly be nice, and I think that we can do these types of upgrades on the administration side of the building, the current existing building. It would be nice that as the department grows, and I'm not saying a year from now, 2 years from now, it could be 5 or 10 years from now, is that'll allow us to expand and use the existing space for new administration, things like that.
Down the road.
Down the road.
Okay.
Without affecting the structure. So sprucing it up, however you want to call it. I'm not going to say that's not something we shouldn't look at down the road, but I'm saying that this plan optimizes getting the new living quarters, and then we can deal with throwing paint on the wall and different things like that. What this plan does not take into account is I would make recommendations of moving the exercise room to where the current day room is. But again, that's a lot of cosmetic internal stuff. That doesn't require tearing walls down,
Right.
building new
We
walls.
do that ourselves, right? Yeah, yeah.
Exactly, so.
Okay. So then from a design, obviously what spawned this conversation was the cost, right? To spend $2.5 million on a remodel versus adding more space and getting the same bang for the buck, or getting more bang for the buck. From a design perspective, in order to save ultimate costs, are we able to do like a prefab building that has been mentioned several times over in order to save costs in the build?
So if you'll notice, that is what Tino and his team has done, and I don't know, I may let you speak to that, because I don't want to steal your thunder. But that concept was, or what you're seeing is a pre-engineered metal building.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think that's really all I have.
One other thing, without remodeling the old admin portion of it, we had talked about repurposing it on down the road. I'm just gonna throw an idea out there. You see how small our space is right here. We used to have meetings out there at Fire Station 3. And I think it would be nice if we could repurpose it for any of those extra positions that may come in that we don't, because we're going to be looking at a civic center admin building on down the road too. And so we got people who work from home. It'd be nice to get all those people into work, but at the same time, it'd be nice to get out of this and have our own building. And this is already bought and paid for, the old section. I could see a remodel in the future for it, just opening it up in a couple offices and a meeting room, a meeting space.
If it's okay, I'll just clarify. We do have the design bid out right now for the 79 Spalding, which will extend the 63 Spalding, or not really extend it, but add an additional facility there that will address where we're leasing spaces. There's nobody currently who's working from home permanently. There are cases where maybe authorized for a day, or as people have those situations, but there's nobody who's not in the office, doesn't have an office.
So does our emergency preparedness guy have an office?
Safety and risk manager? Yes,
Where's his office?
63 Spalding.
Okay.
City charter.
Yep. It's right past the kitchen and bathrooms.
Around the corner, back,
Yeah, we do have cases where people either share offices, rotate into offices, or like this space and the space next to us, we're leasing space to be able to maintain those functions or have office spaces. That's what 79 Spalding does, whether it was there or here.
Okay.
Yeah, so with 79 Spalding, we would no longer lease building space for office space in the boardroom. We would also no longer purchase storage space, correct, for
Might have
files
to, yeah.
and such.
It may not just be 79 Spalding that helps resolve that, but that's our goal, is to find ways to be able to get out of those lease spaces.
Right.
But let me understand, 79 Spalding's not gonna replace this space.
Yes,
Yes, it is.
boardroom
Even-
and the offices here. So we don't have to lease the space that's here.
No, I'm talking about this meeting area.
Yes, boardroom.
It's gonna be, okay, so it's gonna be large enough to encompass, do we have an idea of, how many people, as far as maximum occupancy we can get?
We're moving away from the fire station.
Yeah. We can discuss
get
that,
back to
yes.
the
To answer your
station.
quick questions, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll send you some information.
Are we doing anything to the existing admin building?
We'll have to move, we'll take advantage of gaining that space for administration. But overall, no. I mean, again, going back to, and I hate to say it so simply,
Yeah.
but other than
Moving the
we're
gym
gonna have to
equipment
move
over.
exercise equipment,
Okay.
we may have to
Yeah.
tear up carpeting, we may have to throw some paint on the
Okay.
wall.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no other plans to do anything with, and then that'll gain us some of the additional office space that we could currently are in need of.
Okay. And then when do we find out what the estimated cost for design and construction is on this one?
That is a great question. Because the guidance I think we've received thus far is a lot of time when we get to this phase is we're not looking for costs. The only thing that I think we specified for this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the goal was to try and design this in such a way that it was just as cost effective, or understand if it wasn't compared to the renovation specifically. So I would like feedback from the board of whether we want to scope out the total cost of this, of what we think it is, just based on the concept, or if we want to leave that to the process for when the invitation of the bid would come back.
Oh, okay.
So we don't want to assign a cost like you've all been
Exactly,
talking
like we
about.
discussed before.
Yeah. Leave that
And
up
just
to
put
the-
it out for bid, and then they'll tell us how much they can build it for.
Right.
And just a cost that we should be prepared for is that there will be a cost associated with turning this concept into design plans. Rule of thumb typically is that a full design is about 10% of your total construction cost, but without true knowing what the cost will be, we're playing with whatever those bids might be that come back.
When would we find out those bids?
The two things that I think are paths for which the board can consider today is if we want to be able to work with RSNH to identify if we want to translate that, in which case we would ask them for a cost back of what it would cost to do that. Or if we went the route of trying to put this concept out for a separate bid, then we would get a bid process or request for proposal process for a design and learn the costs as they provide their proposals.
And that's what we're deciding Monday.
Correct.
Any discussion on that?
I guess I don't know why we would put it out to bid.
Just go with the same company?
I got it. I was gonna ask for what are the advantages and disadvantages of putting it out for a separate bid versus sticking with who we have.
Yeah, assuming all things are equal, no other dependent variables, meaning another person doesn't overbid, underbid, time. Working with them means that we don't have to go through the request for proposal process and try.
Is that where we came to with our 6-month time frame?
6-month timeframe?
Yeah, I thought I saw in there was 6-month time frame to move forward with the project.
Usually,
That was construction, 6 to 8 months, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. There you go.
it might be, essentially, the whole competitive bid process for getting the request for proposal can often take 1 to 3 months of trying to ensure we go out, allow an opportunity for everybody to actually solicit or request the proposals and then evaluate and select. So you'd be saving at least for most of the.
We would hope there would be some advantage
3
to
months?
sticking with the same company.
3 months.
3
Yeah,
months?
so my thought on that too, it's kind of a hard discussion with you being in here, but, you know, I think you've heard from us all about our concerns and how we really want to mitigate costs as much as possible. And as I would feel comfortable moving with your company, because the work that you've done in history with us, as long as you take those considerations into play.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He has stuck with us for a number of years now with all the deviations and the changes that we've asked for, or what about this concept? Can you put that on paper? I would be remiss in saying that we would, you know, we're gonna start all over again, and we'd have to explain everything we've gone through to a different vendor that RSNH, Tino specifically, has invested in over the last 4 years or so.
Yeah, again, as long as we're cost conscious, you know, do we
Yeah,
need
we're-
soundproof walls, do we need this, and that, and the other, as we've talked about already.
Where are we at with any extra design cost?
We've already approved that, right? What they paid?
Approved it for the original renovation. That was the
Correct.
contract modification. I believe there will be costs associated with, regardless if it was another firm or not, there's gonna be costs associated with turning these into design.
Do we have any numbers on that for this design?
No,
Not yet. We
no,
haven't.
that's what he
No.
was talking about.
No. I'm talking
You
about,
were,
we were gonna, we were gonna renew the contract with you for the design.
And we did, and you approved the additional cost to come up with the plans that you see before you.
Right.
And that was the endpoint.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we
so
approved the
we're
concept.
good up to this point.
We are good up to this point.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
To turn
I
this-
can't remember everything.
To turn this into actual architectural design plans will be a new cost. And
I'm good going with who we have. Yep.
So Monday, what we'll ask for is essentially just the motion.
An action
or-
item.
Action item to approve that. We'll come back with the actual contract. We'll have associated costs with that. As soon as
I'm looking forward to getting this going as soon as possible, so.
I just have.
We can fast track it too.
Bill has,
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I want to be clear of what is expected between now and Monday. That we're going to have cost
no.
associated with,
All we'll look for Monday is a motion essentially saying what we did today, formally actioning that they approve of this as a concept, that they want to move forward with RSNH.
Okay.
That gives us the guidance and direction to then start working and develop an actual contract modification or amendment, or any one, to be able to actually propose to the board for that to review.
gotcha.
That work?
You had me panic there for a second.
Feel good about
Maybe
it.
more so for Tino,
Feel
if he's
good.
got to come up with a cost before Monday.
It's a good day.
But I think you still have questions.
Yeah, I still have some questions. So, as Brian mentioned, the initial idea was to hopefully build a building that saved money. So I had questions, comparing this to the first design, looks to me like we had 6 dormitories. This new design has 8 or 9. 1, 2, 3.
I think it's 7.
7 plus an
7.
office, right?
8, including the officer dorm.
Oh, 8, yeah.
8. It also has a decontamination that I didn't see on the other one. So I guess my concerns are that it's great if it saves, if we can still work within a cost-saving measure, but if we're just swapping dollars for dollars, that kind of concerns me. Is there going to be, originally I think we had all thought that there was going to be 2 entrances to the building and there was going to be a dead space in the middle that could either be used for storage or something, but now that's turned into decontamination showers up against the building and then the additional dorms. So that's my only thought is, did we think because we were going to be able to save some money, we could add more to this, which is ultimately going to bring the cost back up? That's all. That's my concern. Why did it grow compared to what it was?
We
Do
have,
you mind if
Would you
I,
like
we
to
have
comment?
showers in the,
Yeah.
hold on.
Is there a decon shower? Is there a decontamination shower? I can't see them on this plan. In the original plan, is there a decontamination shower?
No, there was not.
Okay.
And the reason for that was the renovation that we were doing in the existing was considered as an interim condition, with the ultimate addition on the north side being the long-term
Right.
plan. So we were going to add those decontamination showers into the addition
Right.
whenever that happened, right? 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah,
down
so
the
we
road.
were gonna end up spending the
It was-
$2.5 million on the renovation, knowing that we would have to spend probably the same, if not more, on another renovation down the
Okay.
road.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
And that also addresses the question about the number of dorm rooms.
Mhm.
We were fitting as many as we could into the existing, with 6 being the bare minimum. And in the ultimate build-out, we were going to have the full 8 to be
Okay.
able to accommodate. And you can speak
And
more
if
about
it makes,
staff.
okay.
yeah, if it makes sense. So I'm going to go all the way back to 2006 when we were building the concept for Station 3, right? That was built and opened in 2008. That gave us Station 1 being a main facility on the south side of Highway 50, Station 3 being a main facility on the north side of Highway 50. Again, projecting future growth, right? We're hoping these are going to be 50-year buildings, whatever you want to make that look like. Station 1 and 3, the concept is to make those primary stations being able to hold 2 crews. So 2 crews, fully staffed is up to 8 firefighters, okay? Minimum staffing at 6. So that's why those bedrooms are laid out that way, for both north and south side future responses.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
That makes a lot
Okay.
more sense, because
Yeah.
I think we had a conversation at one point where you said a crew was 3 people
Right.
in any given shift, and I think we were all, then why do we have 6 bedrooms?
Yeah. So normal NFPA staffing is a crew of 4
Yeah.
per apparatus. Generally, in this part of the country, 3 is acceptable, 4 is what you're staffed at.
Yeah.
So, for example, I'm staffed at 4 per apparatus, but because of vacation, sick leave, blah, 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 our minimum staffing is 3. It would be great somewhere along the line in the future, somebody is able to build that staffing up so that consistently every day, there's 4 people on that apparatus. So if we're gonna build a fire station and spend these millions of dollars to do it, we should make sure that we're planning for that possibility.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you, does this satisfy the needs
Yes, sir.
moving forward? We're
Good.
not looking at another renovation anytime soon.
And are no issues with the HVAC being able to do this as separate from the original structure, correct?
Yes, so the building is entirely a separate building.
Good.
That's why we have kind of the pinch point in the middle, but the broader rectangle, that's the main structure. The rest is a connecting piece because we have to have those 2 entrances. But the HVAC will be completely independent from the existing.
Good.
Appreciate all the
I like
back and
it.
forth and the long haul to get us to this point. I know it's been a struggle, but I think you've satisfied everything, all the concerns that we originally had. We didn't want to pay millions of dollars for a renovation just to know that we have to spend more for another renovation. That was a concern. And then, just making sure that we add space versus spending millions of dollars just to live within what we have. Yeah,
And I'm happy with the prefab building.
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both.
Very much.
Resolution award for Civic Center Trail Phase 1. Ms. Carroll.
Good.
Good morning. Before I sit down and start, I didn't upload this yet, but I will upload it by Monday. I just wanted to hand this, so when I start talking about Civic Center Trail Phase 1, you know what I'm talking.
Thank you.
You got one more for Mr. Potter?
Oh, yeah.
Rick Potter, I mean.
I'll do it after the meeting. Good morning, Board of Directors. Carol Cosby, Director of Parks and Recreation. This morning, I wanted to talk to you about Civic Center Trail Phase 1. We completed design and are ready to award a contract to Schischler Construction Inc., or Schischler Inc., for the construction phase of the project. I handed you a map so you can look where the actual Civic Center Trail Phase 1 is. It is the light pink in that map. That's what you're looking at. The trail will go from Joe Martinez, go through Civic Center Park, and it'll stay mainly towards Civic Center Plaza Road, and it'll tie in to the existing gravel trail there, into the playground, the splash pad, the bathrooms, go around to the main pavilion, and then tie into the skateboard park, as well as the new dog park that construction has started. So I just wanted to let you know where that was. For Monday night's meeting, attached is a resolution and an award letter to Schischler Inc. We had 4 bids come in. They were the lowest at $199,280.39, plus the 10% contingency of $19,928.04, bringing that total to, yeah, I didn't write that down, Yep, that's what it came to, and we'll have to add those up, and I'll let you know on that.
Is it the 199, 280?
It's the one plus the contingency, okay? So, there will be contingency. The award will be for the 199, 280.39 in the contract. Design was 71. So if we remember when we talked about this project, this is a federally funded project. We were given $513,806 for this project. There is no match on this project. This is fully funded by federal funds. So
Is that complete 1 and 2, phase 1 and 2?
it's only
The 5?
phase one.
So what do we have to do with the excess funds?
It goes back to them, and we have to reapply for phase two.
Okay.
We tried.
That's fair. No, that's
We
fair.
tried to put it towards phase two.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
do it.
We tried.
Okay.
We had to reapply.
Yeah.
So once that opens again, we will reapply for phase two through the rest of the park. And phase two, if you look at the map, will be the blue section. So, is there any questions? I think
Yes.
No,
Okay.
Could throw a pool in there somewhere to use that money.
A wading pool?
Sorry.
So this is gonna be concrete?
Yes, it is.
So, can you explain to me why we have asphalt in some locations and concrete paths in others?
Cost, I'm sure.
Just for consistency.
When we apply, we usually do the long trails along the roads in asphalt. Sean's gonna help me out on this one. This one is a concrete trail, and again, it is cost. This goes into our park. This also ties in and goes through grass areas in our park, so it will last a lot longer when we have irrigation. And that's why we went concrete on this actual trail. And phase two will actually be concrete as well, because if you look at it, it's going over an existing gravel trail that we currently have there, and it runs, again, between where sprinklers are on this side and this side, and just the longevity and lasting longer for this area. That's why concrete was initiated here.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't have anything else. Sorry, that's about all I have right now.
Any questions or further discussion for this one?
No.
Thank you, Carol.
All right, thank you.
Don't go anywhere.
I'm sitting right here.
Welcome again.
Okay, Carol Cosby, Director of Parks and Rec. We're talking about the geotechnical report. That was uploaded into your packet. I know that Christian sent some emails last night. I didn't bring copies, though.
Yeah, sorry, the
Did you-
geotechnical report will be in your packet. What was sent, I think, yesterday, was an Excel spreadsheet and then actual formal documents. Those didn't have time before we published it. They will be attached to the
They-
Monday packet.
They will be attached on Monday for the packet. I just didn't have time
Is it-
last night to do that.
We'll do that for Monday.
So you have the geotech, which was, I think, 22 pages long, and then we had the summary, the geotechnical finding summary from Ascenza Architect. And that's the one that I'll probably go through, and that was in the email last night. And I was just gonna hit the narrative on that. We remember that the two site selections are, the first, site one is the one on John Powell and McCulloch. Site two is the one at
Assembly.
McCulloch and Assembly. So that's how we refer to them. Those are the two sites that we had geotech done on. There were 4 drillings on each site. So in the narrative, and I'm just gonna kind of read through this. Site one borings, I just went through that. Both the cost estimator and the structural engineers have shared more positives to build on site two. And this is coming from Ascenza. Refer to the attached geotechnical report for the soil types found on site and recommendations for foundations and some of the notes for site one. Again, that is approximately 17 acres. Appears to be more bedrock, less earthwork friendly, similar soils, bearing capacity to the original site and site two. The bedrock can be removed, ripping with a bulldozer. There won't be any blasting. And Site 1 appears to have a little more slope and looks to be a bit more work to develop. Notes on Site 2, it's definitely a bigger location. It's 56 acres. It appears to have less bedrock, more earth-friendly, similar soils bearing capacity to original site and Site 1. Consider how much of the site will be developed for this project and for any future phases of development. And again, the bedrock here can be removed by ripping and bulldozering, no blasting. And in their report, it looks like Site 2 to be a little bit easier. If we went to the cost of each site, on Site 1, the largest cost would be around $200,000, $125. Site 2 is $224,694. So there's not really much of a difference between Site 1 and Site 2 as in cost there. You're looking at $24,000, give or
the
take some there.
Excavation cost.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir. So in the original one, when we talked about Site 2, that is, and it's uploaded as well in your packet. Though we do have a road work, kind of not a bid, but estimate based on Soccer House when they were there. That was done in 2021. I think it was 600,000, and now we're in 2025, going into 2026 with inflation. It's about $800,000 worth of work on the assembly site. So we kind of know that. Site 1, we don't really have estimates on road work, but we don't feel it will be nearly that much cost. So right now, we're looking at board direction on what site they think would be best based on Site 1. It's a smaller location. It's a good location. And where we're going to go with Parks and Recreation in the future, that would probably be Site 2, where you can add on. So I'm looking for board input.
I have a few questions. I know Brian does too. In regards to the site maps,
Yes.
is it possible to get a 2-scale draft overview? And we talked about this earlier. When you look at the acreage versus actual how much space we're going to take up with the building and parking. Okay? And I'm just asking, can you provide us something that's going to be close to scale by Monday?
You're just looking for like a rudimentary,
It'd be like taking,
I don't know if you can give anything.
taking this map and putting a Monopoly house on it.
That's
To
what
make
you're-
it to scale, you know what I'm saying? So that way we have an idea, okay, it's gonna take up this much space on John Powell, it's gonna take up this much space on, assembly area, and so where do you think we should locate it?
Yeah. So if you had a plot map and then you just
Exactly.
stick on
So
or
you
draw
want me to
out
just
where.
draw a square where I think I want it to go? Is that what you're telling me? I will work with
Sean,
Sean, because you're talking to Carol now, Parks.
It won't be to scale.
It will not be to scale.
Yeah, the quick rule of thumb I know is that we've identified about 8 acres for the aquatic center if it was
Yes.
fully developed. That's probably going
With
to be
parking.
located somewhere with parking. The whole facility of it. Thanks, Jim. Is the idea it would have to exist somewhere in that. So in the space of John Powell, if it's 17 acres, you can imagine it somewhere taking up half of the space. Whereas on the 56 acres of assembly, there might be flexibility where we would put it. But I don't know if that's gonna.
8 acres of what was it, 31.5 acres or something like that?
Yeah, I think they said 17 and 56 total.
Site 2 is 56 acres, Site 1 on John Powell is 17 acres.
17 acres.
Yeah, so if you were at, just take for instance, Lovell Park, that's 21 acres right there. It is a 21 acre park.
So we'd still be able to expand, have ball field, soccer field,
Yes, We're really close to that on, I mean,
Indoor.
it's.
A workout
again-
track
Indoor rec.
around the area.
Yes, sir.
What site are you talking about?
John Powell.
Either site.
Oh.
Yeah, you still 9 acres, I guess.
I mean, it sounds like John Powell's gonna
But
be
you said
the,
the park is 21
Keep-
acres.
If you took 8 acres out, you'd have 13 acres left. Excuse me?
Yeah.
You'd have 9 acres left. Math.
She caught herself.
I did catch myself, yes.
I really do it.
It won't
So
be
yeah,
as bad.
imagine that as far as that. So for instance, if you look for ball fields, indoor track or outdoor track, additional things, you're gonna run into your cap sooner with John Powell, but there might be the room to do multiple locations for it. Whereas assembly is going to be sky's the limit almost, because you're only gonna take 8 acres out of that 56, you have 48 left.
You could do soccer fields, you could do
Yeah,
ball
you could do a
fields,
lot.
you could do
Yeah.
track, you
Yeah.
could do.
I'd be
a
leaning
lot.
towards assembly for sure.
And I think that's if it's helpful to orient towards what we're really asking for the board to discuss in a way. What you're hearing a little bit about the geotech is that there is a difference in the soil analysis, but the cost effect for the soil analysis alone is marginal comparative between the two sites. When it comes to the road work, it's more significant. There's probably gonna be more in assembly than there is John Powell, but it might not be millions of dollars, it might be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, on that, for that road work on assembly, do we know how far on assembly that's gonna go? The road work would
Let me
be
see if it-
required, or?
So we will still have to confer with county for both locations. What was provided in the packet was what soccer houses, which I believe is a much larger
It's gonna be more than soccer.
overall activity or facility, and what they required of them. So we're using it as essentially,
A
Benchmark?
guide.
exactly.
I got you.
And it looks like they go past assembly at least to all where the parking lot spaces go. Don't ask me for rough estimates. I apologize.
So the closer you put the building to McCulloch, possibly would mitigate some of the road improvements.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially.
Potentially, depending on what the county's gonna require off of McCulloch and, if it's gonna be only a right-in, they'll have to go out somewhere. So it might be, and I can't think of the road where the light is.
Aspen Skiway.
Thank you. Aspen Skiway.
And there's already a light there.
Yes, there
It's
is
been
a light.
flashing for 30 years.
Yes, it has. You're absolutely correct at this point.
Back to that point, though, the idea of what the board considers if marginal for soil analysis, difference in cost, somewhat modest for when it comes to road work. Question really comes down to is both sites offer something completely different almost. One is a more southern located, smaller acreage, but more in the community location that can be developed moderately beyond what the indoor pool aquatic facility could yield as far as full acreage. The north site is much more closer located to Highway 50, industrial commercial business. It has much larger acreage when it comes to how much it could be future developed out.
And then we could subdivide, like, let's say we didn't wanna do anything, but we wanted to subdivide and then just sell the
For
remainder of
commercial
that.
development.
Yeah, for commercial development, like, once we get the pool set up,
I don't know that we can do that. That was,
why
That
wouldn't we be
was-
able to do that?
well, we could, but that is the only site that has been set aside by McCulloch at the beginning for recreation.
Assembly?
Yes.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was part of the airport.
It was part of the
Landing
airport, but
strip.
it's only parcel, I can't remember the parcels. If I recall right, it was A, B, and C, and that was it.
Okay.
And it ended at the,
Let's see if we can pull up real quick.
if you recall because you were around when Soaring Eagle, when we did the Soaring Eagle.
Right.
That's where it would end, around the corner.
Oh, that's, research.
Yes, something around that area,
Mhm.
yes.
So if that's the
But
case,
that would be the only, that would be, there's a lot of parcels in that area,
Mm-hmm.
but,
Yeah.
Plus it would be, we get a lot of, or we have in the past, the north side feels neglected because there's not, at least there, it's not north side, but it's closer to them than.
and then if that's the case, then it can only be used for Parks and Rec, I mean, then that way, then we have to use it for Parks and Rec, right? If that's what if what you're saying is true.
well, I can't really say that.
Yeah, I
but-
can sub it.
You answer
If it was subdivided, there are potential zoning changes that you could do for whatever the other subdivision land was. Right now, it is community facilities, which is previously S1 public
Isn't it?
land, essentially.
S1.
Yeah.
So if we had a massive Parks and Rec complex. You know, we have
Yeah.
the pool, we have an indoor rec facility, we have some outdoor fields, whatever the case might be, a park or whatever. But we still have land left over. Eventually, we could talk about subdividing and
Absolutely. Well, that's up to the board.
and rezoning for commercial space and so forth.
Or to the point, it might still be a recreational activity for which there is either a lease or something that's still a public amenity run by a potential commercial entity or private entity.
Awesome.
Does anybody have any sites that they prefer?
Assembly.
I like assembly.
I'd go assembly.
I've been to both sites. I like Assembly. It's pretty flat, with the exception of these long mounds. And an upcrop of trees that has a bunch of debris, which I have photos of, all up in it. But other than that, it's definitely got room for expansion. Are we talking about, would it be cheaper to access it by turning on Assembly, then turning into the property, versus turning off of McCulloch?
Pueblo County is going to require us to take access from the lowest classification of roadway, which will probably be Assembly, and require to meet those aspects of it. So I don't know if if there would even be a cost difference really when it comes down to it, but ultimately that's what they're going to require of us.
Yeah, because I can just imagine in my head, they'd want a turn lane. And we're already coming from as light and hitting a 45 mile an hour speed zone. So we'd have to probably look at maybe changing the speed zone there. If they say off of McCulloch.
Yes.
Doesn't sound like that'd be the case.
Sean Winters, Director of Operational Support. The likely scenario on either site is when we go to put together a package for review to Pueblo County, we'll have to have a traffic study. And the infrastructure will need to meet whatever warrants that traffic study says that we need, whether or not it's an additional turn lane, or if they're going to prohibit a left-hand turn at Assembly onto McCulloch. They all have to take a look at what the traffic generation is with this new aquatic facility, what the existing traffic load is, project it out 20 years, and determine what those traffic warrants are. So nothing is set in stone right now, but we do know what they were requiring when we were considering a subdivision for Soccer House. It was pretty extensive.
That was a much bigger project though, for traffic.
I don't know that. I know what they had
Based on their-
proposed, but I don't know how their traffic study would match up to our traffic study.
Let me ask you this, just top of my head, because I really don't know this process too well. But if you were to develop some sort of concept for this, for a large scale, full build out of this acreage, less anything that we want to set aside for commercial space, and you were to present that to county, with them realizing that the aquatic center would be the first piece of that, could you then, would that give you more ability to forego Assembly build out, road extension or road improvements, and work off of McCulloch?
No, I think that
Does that make sense?
my thought would be you would only present them with the aquatic center at this time and base your traffic study on traffic generation for that facility. Once you start to develop that property into more things like soccer fields or ballparks or whatever, then you would go ahead and put your plans in for that, and it might modify a little bit, but I don't think that changes much, because I think your big draw is going to be the aquatic center, but.
Well, it depends. If we have an indoor rec center that has a bunch of other activities.
To make sure I understand, are you asking if we were to present just the indoor pool aquatic center versus the whole thing? Would
Yeah.
that change what they would direct us to take access from?
Correct.
I think regardless, they're going to want us to go Assembly.
Yes.
Because they want the least amount of turning lanes on the higher, or turning movements on the higher classified roadway. So having only in that one section rather than there, plus the indoor pool, will be what their goal is. And regardless if we say there's multiple activities there or not, they're still gonna look at it that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
just a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you take a look at whatever that development is, they're gonna require you to take access from the lowest classified roadway, always.
Think of it like a strip mall. You might have 10 shops there. The goal of good traffic control is that you get the traffic from Highway 50, for instance, off of it, and then they go and figure out which store they want to get into in that strip mall, rather than each trying to take strip mall exit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And depending on the amount of traffic, you might,
Yeah.
might have to have more than one
Yeah.
entry exit point.
So the worst case scenario of it is you find those exit points right in, right outs along the way for it, and you see a much more developed intersection for a light and seeing that go there. But that's a lot safer than them trying to do
Okay.
all those.
Fair enough.
Carol and Sean, in your opinion, the assembly site, you got Assembly Road and you got two other turnoffs off of Industrial to access that area. Where would you imagine putting the aquatic center? East side, in the middle, or closer to McCulloch?
Are you looking at me? Okay, so probably my east-west are way different than your east-west. So if we were going down McCulloch and gonna go around the corner as you're driving down McCulloch, I would envision that it'd be closer to McCulloch there, because if you're going to build onto it and build more future stuff for parks, you would start here and build down. We did, a long time ago, I keep referring to Soaring Eagle, so I apologize for that. Soaring Eagle is a ball field complex. And so those fields were already situated, and we have some conceptual drawings of that. And they're more towards, and no one will know what that is except you guys, 280. The McCulloch building that we had.
Yeah.
The ball fields are more situated down towards that area. And then just west of there were the soccer fields. So, that's where I would envision it, more towards the west end, and work add on as we move forward. And that would just be my vision, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree, the furthest west, closest to McCulloch. It seemed to me like the borings that we got on that site, one of the borings that was on the furthest east, we did have some groundwater at 13 feet. So you'd want to try to stay away from that. Not that we couldn't mitigate that, but it seemed that the water table issue didn't present itself closer to McCulloch.
Great place for soccer field.
Have we had any historic flooding in that area?
I can't answer that.
Not that I can recall from a roadway standpoint. I don't remember anything flooding in that area to speak of.
Just in regards to elevation and, you know, water naturally flows downhill, so.
Well, you'll notice that there are some berms
Yes.
there on the very north edge. I don't know what the origins of those were. I don't know if there's just a place to put spoils.
I could too.
I don't know why they're there, but they're there.
Well, you go ahead, you tell your story and then I'll tell mine.
I don't know, that was overburden from one of the road projects.
It was overburdened from one of the road projects and hoped that Soaring Eagle would be developed. And so that was kind of the barrier if we were to have soccer fields. And a little bit safer off of McCulloch, that is, it's 45 miles an hour, but that's not what people drive. So it was more of a, in the future, with all the extra dirt that they had, that it would give an opportunity to develop the area and make it a little bit safer without putting fencing and stuff up.
Now, I will also say that the further away from McCulloch might present a situation where you have less roadway improvements. For instance, if you put it right there where Aspen Ski tees into Assembly, and that would be your main access into that park area, that you already have a traffic signal up on Industrial, They may require you to do some upgrades on Aspenski heading north and a little bit on Assembly. But if that was your main access point, there's a possibility that you might have less roadway
Yeah, that's a good
improvements.
point, Sean, because the
That's-
industrial's been redone there. so-
That's a good, that
That's-
is a good point.
Yeah, and I was also looking where research comes into Assembly. On that end,
Down
that
at
seems
the
to,
other
that
end.
seems to be the higher ground in elevation, when I look at it.
I don't think I've ever seen any flooding down there.
Yeah,
I had a,
no.
my business was down there for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of research.
I was just
right?
curious.
Right, yeah, between research and
Aspen.
announcement.
My biggest concern moving further east is groundwater, and it sounds like maybe we have some fill material in the form of an existing berm that we could utilize to bring the existing ground up a little bit to help mitigate that, but,
But the groundwater is only gonna impact the deep end of the pool,
Which
right?
ought to be-
He said, I think he said 13 feet.
Yeah, it was
And if you're
13
9
feet.
You've got, 4 foot separate, so,
Might have to go a little bit long.
and the pylons, they estimated 25 feet deep.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to go that, a structural engineer will just determine how deep to set the foundation pylon, so.
yeah, and
I don't
that's yet to be determined. You know, select the site first, find a
Mhm.
location on that site where you want to build.
Right.
Now we start drilling down into more detail and getting better information for design.
And
But that gives you two access points, industrial, Assembly off of McCulloch,
Yeah.
off of Research and Assembly.
Northbound, you want to take Assembly over to McCulloch, and if you're going southbound, you want to take the light to get over to
Yeah.
McCulloch on Assembly.
that's a good point.
There's a lot to think about. But just need to make sure just need to make sure we have good access to the actual facility, and it's not going to clog up traffic or deter usage.
It might be the triggering mechanism to turn those traffic signals that currently just flash into something that's
That
functional.
turns- yeah.
That's true. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You want me to follow up on the PSA? Or-
I'll let you start, but can we, hold on a minute. I just want clarification. Am I drawing a square on the property, or are we good for Mondays nights? Because that was brought up, and I just want to make sure I'm following up and
I
know what
just-
I'm doing.
I just wanted to confirm that geographically, from what we were provided, it's not to scale. You know what I'm saying? But if we're gonna pick a location on the site, that's when I would want that.
Right.
Does that
So
make
we're
sense?
good for now.
We're good.
Yeah.
Great. I
So-
just wanted to clarify.
Appreciate that. On Monday, we'll ask as a formal motion to approve one site or the other.
Correct.
To give you just a context of the next steps from that, Senza has been working on the concept, taking from the alternative design into the ADA compliant. What they've asked for, and what I think will make a lot of sense going forward, is they've asked to meet with the board to take what their concept is, to get approval of what that looks like, with the modifications that may have come from looking at your design, President Vickers. And now, having site selected by Monday, those two pieces of information can finalize into a final contract, actual professional service agreement, which we can then hopefully present December for approval with everything covered, the site and the facility.
So what would that entail? Are you talking about construction management for the project?
Design.
Okay, just
Design.
design.
We're
Okay.
just doing
Okay.
design.
All right.
But before they start design, they would like to sit down with the board to make sure they're going the right direction, so we don't have to do it again.
I would like that.
So they, I did speak with Krista Plaza is her name, from Ascenza, and she'd be happy to come down and meet with the board. She was supposed to send me some dates, but I haven't got those yet.
Well, she's on vacation till,
She is, but we've been in contact
okay.
a couple times. She
Oh.
just hasn't sent me those dates yet.
I
But
think
we'd
we'll
like
get
to
that by
do
Monday.
it. What?
The date, we'd have dates by Monday?
I will do my best.
Because
We gotta get it on the books.
to your point,
We do.
we're gonna have to call a special meeting to have conversations, so that way we can get that hashed out prior to December to approve. Or worst case scenario, we would need to do it immediately after the December meeting to get the special meeting approved. So we'll try to get dates and just let you know that's the next step in the process.
I will try to have dates by Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
You're welcome.
Do we want to wait for Roberts or?
No, you can start.
All right. All right. Board, Kevin Love, Deputy Director of Utility Operations, bringing the conversation discussion on the PRB Installation Award. Currently, we have received RJ Gleason's lowest bid, and that came in at $173,092.
Wow.
We rolled forward $442,000 from the 2024 budget, as far as I understand. And with that, the Utilities Department would recommend that we move forward with RJ Gleason on the $173,92 plus a 10% contingency of $17,309.20. being a total of $190,401.12. With that, the caveat I have is that I don't have the signed agreement yet. So this is just a preliminary discussion. I was hoping to get it done by today. If I don't receive those documents, I can take it off Monday's agenda and we'll review it when we get those signed documents.
And you're quite a discrepancy between them and the others. Are you pretty okay,
Yeah.
okay with
And
that?
they've done work with us before.
Okay.
Yeah.
When are you looking to complete the project?
I don't know the time frame. I think it's the 120 days. As soon as we get signed agreements.
And they
Yes.
sent it to me just recently.
So you do have it?
And I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we
you're
can-
ready to get those documents, so you should see it on Monday night.
Awesome. Thank you.
And that's that pressure relief valve, right?
Correct. According to the American Water Works Association, we want to keep those pressures on a target of 60 PSI in the system. So that'll help regulate those.
Is this for part of the district or?
This is for, in the pictures in the attachments, it's down there, it's south of Highway 50, and generally it's, just in general terms, it's between West McCulloch and Purcell. It's like Sweetwater, there's an area over there, as well as Northampton.
It's like Linden Ave, Greenway Ave.
Correct.
Northampton, Papago. Parcel 8's of track 367, Hollister, and parcel F of track 362. Sweetwater and parcel 8.
How much of the district do you think it is, percent-wise, that they're doing?
Probably, just estimating 20%.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. I know we have additional PRVs in the northern area as well.
And they're only installed where the water pressures are excessive, is that right? Any further questions?
No, I was gonna say, same thing you did.
Okay.
And just out of curiosity, any idea why they're, because to Bill's point, the difference was like 270,000 between them and the next lowest bidder. Any idea why they're?
Well, they have done work
Able
with
to
us
do it.
before. I believe they're more regional in the area, and they're, as far as I understand, they do these.
They want repeat business. Good.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So previously there was $442,778 committed to this project in 2025, is that correct?
That was a roll forward, as I understand, from the 2024 year.
So we're looking at a cost savings here.
Mhm.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah.
I like it. I want more of it.
Any other additional questions?
Nope.
No, sir.
No, thank
All
you,
right.
Kevin.
Thank you.
Everything you sent us was pretty detailed when I looked at it earlier.
Good.
Okay, moving into the Committee of Architecture, defining the board COA relationship.
So I'll probably start off, but I'm gonna turn it over to either Carl or President Vickers, depending on how the conversation intended. I think we've had a couple conversations so far where the Board of Directors, elected body, Committee of Architecture is an appointed body by this Board of Directors. There is history associated with that. and how it came to be. The covenants are enforced by the Committee of Architecture, for which the district has the Declaration of Reservations. The Board of Directors, elected body for the Metropolitan District. There have been either challenges or difference of opinion when it comes to the relationship and the authority or sometimes the separation that's desired between them. I think ask Carl, I'll probably kick it off to you first. As far as the thought of what that either history looks like or parts of any analysis you've done that you'd like to provide before ultimately, I think, the discussion being how would the board like to engage with the Committee of Architecture and that relationship look like? So I'll start with Carl, I think.
So I will mention at the outset that it is the board that stands in the shoes of the declarant with regard to the Declaration of Reservations, which is the root of that land use authority that the district has. And so what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have a clear delegation of authority from the board for anything that they want the Committee of Architecture to be doing relative to the declaration. That's kind of the big picture of what we're looking at. We have been working with Sean and with Terry on refining that relationship, but we really are also looking to the board for your sense of what you want that relationship to look like. The decisions of the COA should be reviewed by the board if you are comfortable with having the COA act with some degree of autonomy. And so we're just interested in making sure that we've got some clarity and then help guide the COA as you think appropriate.
So I can't imagine that we don't have some sort of document outlining what the COA's purview is.
So it's covered in Declaration of Reservations for their total authority, and they do also have their bylaws for their own actionable requirements. I think what's missing generally is the relationship between the board and the COA. For instance, right now the relationship exists as there's a liaison from the board of directors who attends or a rotating basis attends some of the COA meetings. But the COA doesn't really, and I'm talking about the committee, not any staff that work with it. The committee does not provide any delegation or liaison between them. There's no relationship between both reporting to each other, interacting with each other. I think there have been concerns that have been brought up about that.
So an example is they'll approve a building or whatever, a project, they'll approve a project, but that approval, their approval doesn't go to us for final approval. It's not included in our consent agenda, let's say, before it's determined legitimate.
Correct. You've delegated that, well, either have delegated that authority or based on the Declaration of Reservations within which it grants that power to them, they have the ability to do it.
So what has really spawned this discussion? Are we starting to delve out of what their original purview is, or why are we concerned at this point?
Let me jump in with that. So, yes, some of the concerns that I've gotten, and I've advocated for this a while. So the declarations of reservations are the sole guideline for the Committee of Architecture. The board is simply the declarant who oversees the appointment of committee members. So the committee is supposed to follow the declarations of reservations in making their decisions. Most of the declarations really refer, I think the first couple sentences in the declaration, and I meant to bring my declarations, I forgot. First couple sentences say that they have the authority for architecture and aesthetics, and to maintain a good quality of that throughout Pueblo West. The concern is some of the specific declarations refer to property use. There was a time when they were, as an example, enforcing a 15-foot accessory building height in all zones. 15-foot is only applicable in residential zones. 30-foot is applicable, and so that got changed. They also create their own resolutions that try to enhance enforcement of certain reservations. But in my opinion, some of those go outside their purview delegated in the declarations of reservations, because bear in mind, we can make them less restrictive, the committee can make them less restrictive, but they can't make them more restrictive. These are things that were designed by McCulloch. They're attached to your land policy title work, so they can't make them more restrictive. So I would like to see the board engaged in some form of defining what authority they have in carrying out some of the resolutions. And one of them in particular right now is the weeds. There's nowhere in the declarations that refer to weeds as part of the enforcement capabilities of the committee. They have taken one section that talks about noxious activities and created a weed policy around that.
I thought our weed policy is through the fire.
That's what we have now is the fire mitigation through the fire, or the weed mitigation through the fire department. And the reason that this is important is that we're now looking at weeds throughout the district that are in a natural setting that the committee can say or has been saying you need to cut them down or you need to do this and that, and people aren't doing it, then they're having hearings, and I think that that's a misdirection. I think that the board should weigh in on that, because there's no definition in the declaration about that.
Yeah, do you mind, I have the,
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
if you don't mind coming there, do you mind if I do this real quick? No?
What's that?
I like what you're covering. For the resolutions, so at the end of attached or a copy of Declaration of Reservations, there's supplement resolutions that say resolutions are used by the Committee of Architecture as a means of identifying standards for construction that were not considered when the original covenants were filed. Resolution is not a change to the covenants, only a tool that the committee references in accordance with good planning. Full copies of the resolutions are available at our offices. For the one that President Vickers talks about and where it, for instance, defines weeds, it says Resolution 78, TAC 2, approved and adopted August 23rd, 1978. Resolution 78, TAC 2 defines noxious weeds that measure more than 12 inches in height as being a nuisance, to what he mentioned, where it says in a section, no noxious or offensive activity shall be carried on upon any lot, nor shall anything be done therein which may or may not become an annoyance or nuisance to the neighborhood. So that's where they're taking, here is the 19-something, 72?
1978.
78, thank you. Declaration of Reservations trying to do what they're given sole discretion for when it comes to their subjectivity defined by the Declaration of Reservations, trying to create objectivity to it. But the question is that extending beyond what their ability to do it is based on their original vague language?
Without, you're looking for board approval for that?
No, you
Moving forward,
can't do it if it's not in the declarations of reservations. I don't know that the board has authority to say you can make them more restrictive. Well, they don't have the authority to do that, I don't believe. The other thing, the other part of this is we do have in the declarations, there is a specific statement that says once ground is disturbed, it has to be immediately covered with an approved ground cover by the Committee of Architecture. We tried it 10 years ago to get that implemented, and had such pushback from builders and whatnot that it added a cost to building. But they don't enforce that at all. And so I see a problem. You don't enforce this to start with, and then now you have a weed problem that they want to enforce. So I just think the board needs to kind of weigh in on some of this stuff and think about it.
Is that in the dust control section?
Dust control.
Okay.
Yeah.
To kind of add to that a little bit, so in the declarations, it does grant the committee the authority to adopt reasonable rules and regulations. The weed control one from 1978 is their guiding document. It happens to be something that we're talking about with Carl right now in terms of, as General Counsel reviews this resolution, did they have the authority to approve it? That is a process we're going through right now. For sure, I believe it needs to be rewritten to be more clear, because right now it makes reference to noxious weeds as defined in a dictionary that was published in 1966, which nobody has a copy of. But I think that we can rewrite that weed resolution and do it in a way that is in accordance with the authority that the committee has based upon what the declarations say, based upon what Colorado Revised Statute says. So that's actually something that we're working on right now. One of the things that we're going to bring to the next Committee of Architecture is what do we do in the meantime between having this new resolution written and now. And my suggestion is going to be that anything that is native, you know, we are a community built out on the prairie, that we would exempt those types of violations in terms of being a nuisance. Not to say that it couldn't be a violation of the vegetative fuels mitigation program, but that would be something that we would leave alone, which leaves us with only those things that are not native, you know, various forms of thistle that turn into tumbleweeds, things that are unsightly, those types of things. That's what we're kind of working on right now, because we realize that we have a declaration that isn't completely clear in all aspects. We realize that we have some resolutions that have been written in the past where we may not had the authority to pass them, and we're trying to modernize and make sure that we have the authorities that we're going to try to enforce.
The only thing I'll add to that, Sean, is that in context, and Carl can either substantiate this or not, but when it says that the committee has the ability to make rules, that's for their own operating processes. That doesn't give them authority to change the declarations.
I agree, and when I say that when we do resolutions, I don't look at resolutions to change. I'm trying to push forward resolutions that clarify.
Let me state these. There's only 5 things that it states within the Declaration of Reservations as the declarant or committee responsibilities in its preface, and it's where it caused most of the vagueness and the confusion sometimes about this. But the declarant, which is us in this case, shall appoint a committee of architecture, hereinafter sometimes called committee, consisting of 5 persons. Declarant shall have the further power to create and fill vacancies on the committee. Then it states, it shall be the general purpose of this committee to provide for maintenance of a high standard of architecture and construction in such a manner as to enhance the aesthetic properties and structural soundness of the developed subdivision. Then it lists 3 general responsibilities of the committee, or powers. It says the committee shall be guided by, and except when in their sole discretion, good planning would dictate to the contrary, controlled by this declaration of reservations. Committee shall make available copy of this to any and all. It says the committee shall determine whether conditions contained in this declaration are being complied with. It says the committee may adopt reasonable rules and regs in order to carry out its duties. So it does have, to your point, that it's talking about they can make those rules and regs to carry out its duties, but it's the third one that I mentioned where that vagueness comes from. The committee shall be guided by, and except when in their sole discretion good planning would dictate to the contrary, controlled by this declaration of reservations. That's where there's that.
That's the exceptions that they can make,
Yes, and or the clarification that they can make.
but they can't make them more restrictive.
I don't
know
think
if
it
they're
states that.
making it more restrictive, they're trying to interpret what's written.
Yes.
Well, that's true, and you have to keep things in context, and I think in reading they're not talking about weeds in that particular noxious activity. And any attorney can broaden that to any scope that they feel comfortable doing until it gets brought to court.
Sure.
Then it's determined.
Yeah. The only thing it says there in not nuisances is no noxious or offensive activities. It doesn't restrict or eliminate weeds. It doesn't include or necessarily specify weeds.
A weed is not an activity.
So I think what I want the board to recognize is we have 17 resolutions out there that go way back. And part of what I'm trying to do, working with the committee and working with Carl, is make sure that we really have the authority to enforce these things, right?
Sure.
And if we don't, then we need to address that somehow. And it's either a resolution that eliminates it, or it's a resolution that refines it, redefines it, and makes it more of a clarification of what the declaration already says.
So moving forward, so we don't have these kind of conversations, you know, I'd like to resolve the process so that this doesn't come up again in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So when COA creates a resolution, it sounds like the board needs to at least get eyes on it to make sure that we're good moving forward.
We're approving it.
So can it be included in a consent agenda, or?
I'd probably ask Carl, but I don't,
Yeah,
Does-
my thought would be that the committee does have the authority on its own to adopt rules and regulations.
Okay.
But good practice would absolutely be to seek a ratification by the board as the declarant of those rules and regulations when they're adopted. And that can be done through the consent agenda.
Okay.
I guess,
So then would the policy or resolution wouldn't take place until it was approved through the consent agenda, is that right, Carl?
Well, that's not what the declaration actually says.
Okay.
But I think, what I would say is the board should have a legislative veto, that if the rules and regulations that are adopted are in the judgment of the board, not consistent with the declaration, that you would go ahead and remove those resolutions.
So we would need to add that process to the bylaws as well as some sort of review process if the board
I think that's
does.
probably the right way to do it, to make it seamless, and so we can see exactly how the pieces fit together.
Okay.
I know this is gonna be fun. Does the board have the authority to do that as the declarant, Carl? Because it doesn't specify.
I think good practice is to do that. There is an ambiguity between the powers of the board and the powers of the COA.
Does it?
Obviously, the COA will be operating at maximum authority if there is a record that the board has seen the resolution that has been adopted by the COA and does not have a problem with it.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the concept of why it would make sense to want to be able to do that. I think I share a concern that it creates another level of liability for the district if they don't have they're exercising authority they don't have.
Are you saying
Correct.
that if the COA were to adopt a resolution that is beyond their authority, that we would be creating a problem just by having the board not remove that resolution if it appeared on the consent agenda?
I guess the three examples I could see is a resolution comes forward from them approving it. The board either says, yeah, well, I guess two. Yes, we approve of that as well, consent agenda or otherwise, or no, we don't. And my concern or question would be, does having them in that process further implicate or create concerns for the district to be liable when the only people who should be is the committee at this point? Or does it not really matter at all at that point, whether it's a bad resolution or not?
I think that since the powers of the COA are derived from the declaration, and because the board is the declarant, that a reviewing court is going to take a look and say, the COA adopted a resolution, and the board, which is now the declarant, said, yep, that's okay with us. We're behind you on that. The issue of whether a resolution is ultra virus, meaning beyond the authority of the COA to adopt, I think is something that would get litigated in any case. But I think having the board and the COA marching in lockstep gives you the highest think of it as a delegation of administrative authority. It shows that the board has had an opportunity to review the resolution, and that the board as the declarant believes it's appropriate for the COA to have that authority.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Does that help? Moving forward? Does that
Yeah,
satisfy your?
so we're gonna be the
concern?
governing authority on their resolutions in the
Just
future.
final approval.
Right.
Well, there'd be a ratification
Right, yeah.
of it. So the process would still be, Committee of Architecture has a concern. Do we want to do a resolution that clarifies the declaration or clarifies one of the previous resolutions? We work with Carl, make sure that it's written in a way that we know we have the authority. I bring it to the board to ratify, and we move forward. Does that sound?
If it's part of the consent agenda, it should really be a simplified process.
We want to mill it.
Yeah, it should be in the board packet. We should be able
Yeah.
to review the resolution or the change or whatever the case might be.
We can do
And-
that.
And then when we go through the board meeting, we approve the consent agenda, or we,
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe that is exactly right. If you would approve the consent agenda, that would ratify the resolution of the COA.
okay.
That was the main reason that we brought the COA back under the auspices of the Metro District, was so that it was not a quasi-governmental agency making decisions,
That affect the district.
but it was,
The residents
you know,
of the
the
district.
residents, but the residents had somebody to go back to the board for representation, so they should have.
That's exactly right. It is the board that is ultimately responsible for the voters.
Right.
You select the members of the Committee of Architecture. You have that, I hate to call it oversight, but you have that oversight authority in the nomination process. And by reviewing the resolutions that the COA adopts, that puts both the COA in the strongest position to enforce those resolutions. And it also gives anyone who is reviewing the process your imprimatur of the board, which actually has power derived from state statute, did examine those resolutions and found them to be appropriate for the community.
Right.
So how many resolutions would you say the COA has currently?
I think there's 17
Yeah, I
right
was
now.
gonna say 20.
Okay.
It's not-
Yeah,
it's
can we get we'll get a copy of all
Yeah,
those and
get
we
a
can
copy
review
of
them. Now, you're working on some of the older ones that need to be reviewed and possibly updated?
Yeah, we're taking a look at them periodically. You know, we've done one that changed the way we look at connexes. We're looking at one at how we are going to look at home occupations right now that Carl is still working on. We're taking a look at the weeds. So as Carl has time to review these things, because primarily Carl works for the board and it's the board's direction, so he's taking care of you guys first. He's backfilling anytime he has to help us out with resolution review.
You gotta crack the whip a little bit.
I know.
I'm just teasing, Carl. Just teasing.
He hung up.
Actually, to be perfectly transparent, I have asked my associate Daniel Rubin, who I think all of you have met at one time or another, to help me with this just because of the bandwidth issue.
Yeah, I'm just teasing, bud.
So that's okay.
I was going to say, for a recommendation of next steps, we can absolutely probably provide those resolutions for awareness. But it sounds like they're already moving through the process of trying to evaluate each. Did it go through the proper channels, legal authority, or other questions about it? And it sounds like we'll also develop a process moving forward for resolutions to ensure that they come through that consent agenda path.
Okay, sounds good. Or updates, right, as you're updating. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and the weeds, just to touch base on the weeds issue, since that's where this tends to come up. We've got the old weed resolution. We've got 6A from the rules and regulations that the board adopted under its powers to govern the fire department. And then there has been a really substantial increase in legislation governing weeds as fire hazards. And so
Okay,
That work?
thank you. Yeah, I just, just wanted the board to be a little bit more aware of what's happening.
Yep.
It's good representative government, Carl, when you have layers.
Good.
Thank you. Legal workshop for Colorado Open Records Act.
I'm gonna turn that over to Carl.
Oh,
Good afternoon, yeah, good morning still, Board of Directors, Carl Conley, General Counsel. We are putting in your report packet for Monday, something that I not too laughingly call 6 hot takes on the Colorado Open Meetings Law and CORA, the Colorado Open Records Act. And I'll just go over them quickly and invite your comments if there's something that you would like to have us come back to you on Monday to be prepared to discuss in greater depth. But starting off with the Open Meetings Law, we say that transparency isn't optional, it's a requirement for public trust, and that meetings must be open, and that it's not just red tape. And in particular, knowing that if you have any discussion whatsoever where there is a quorum of board members, meaning 3, you've got a meeting, even if that is on email, even if it's on group chat, on social media, even if it is a common text message. If you have 3 board members who can communicate in the course of that particular format of discussion, then you have a meeting under the Open Meetings Law. So that's one thing to be aware of. Then we wanted to touch base a little bit on executive sessions. I think that this board is quite up to speed in how they work, but because our memo is going to be available to the public, I want to be clear that executive sessions aren't a loophole. They really are an exception, and that we need to always be very mindful of noticing our executive sessions properly and making sure that we identify, and this is a requirement of the law, even though I know it is tedious, especially at the end of the 3.5-hour meeting, when we move into executive session under 24-6-4024, and then whichever subsection it is, identify the particular executive session, particular subsection of the executive session law, which authorizes us to go into executive session, and that we also state the purpose of the executive session with as much detail as reasonably possible without waiving the confidentiality. And just to review, the exceptions that this board is likely to encounter are discussions regarding purchase, acquisition, lease transfer, or sale of real or personal property of the district. You can discuss it in executive session. Of course, you cannot make any decisions in executive session. You can come out of executive session and then entertain a motion to make a particular decision. The second is conferences with an attorney for the public body for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. For example, the discussion that we're having right now is not a discussion on specific legal questions. So this is not a discussion which would be appropriate for an executive session. The third is matters which are required to be kept confidential by federal or state law. There are very few of them. I've never run into one where we've had to invoke this particular subsection of 4024, but it is there, and we would need to state with particularity the statutory citation that requires you to keep touch base on, and it's in your meeting materials today, and that is specialized details of security arrangements. For example, if you were going to talk about how board or staff security arrangements are going to be handled with particularity, you would not want to do that in a public session because of the possibility someone might use that information to circumvent the arrangement. So that is where you can go into executive session. Another is determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations. That includes real property negotiations, but it might also include negotiations if there were a bargaining unit with which you decided that you wanted to engage in negotiations. And the final one is personnel matters. However, there is the right of an affected employee or employees to waive the confidentiality and request that a personnel matter be open to the public. That right is the right of the employee, and if it's a group of employees, all of them must agree. So that is something of which to be mindful. The final thing to remember about executive sessions is that it requires a supermajority of the board to go into executive session. So if you have 3 members of the board comprising the quorum, 2 of the 3 have to vote to go into executive session. If you have 4 members, because 2 of the 4 members would not give you a 2/3 majority, you would have to have 3 of the 4 vote to go into executive session. And if you have a full board, you have to have 3 of the 5 vote to go into executive session. Just a really quick, because I know that we're time constrained here somewhat, regarding the Colorado Open Records Act. If there is anything which is any kind of a record at all, including things like phone mail, text messages, emails, group chat, anything that is created, received, or maintained by the public entity, that means you, that means staff, in connection with public business, that is a record which is subject to KORA, and unless there is a KORA exception, that would need to be disclosed upon a properly formatted request. Also, while KORA favors disclosure, it also builds in some guardrails regarding certain exceptions to KORA. Personnel files, trade secrets, security information, all can be off limits from KORA. Similarly, real estate appraisals, ongoing investigations. So while there is transparency under KORA, there are also guidelines to enable the district to conduct business in a manner that protects you from undue competition in the public sector regarding things like buying and selling water rights. So there are exceptions to KORA that protect you in that sphere. Finally, and I have to give tremendous kudos to staff. Both Katrina and Bree over the years have been terrific about recognizing the deadlines under KORA. The general deadline is that the district has 3 business days to respond to a KORA request. There's also a provision under KORA to invoke a one-time 7 business day extension under extenuating circumstances. Generally, the extenuating circumstances are a very large or complicated request, or if the district officials who have the responsibility of responding to KORA, that could be department heads, that could be the district manager, that could be the district clerk. If their workload is such that they do not really be able, confident with their other duties, to make a deadline within 3 you could invoke a 7-day extension. But those are sort of the hot takes, and one of the things I was hoping to gain in this work session is if there are other matters that you would like us to address with specificity in the meeting on Monday, let me know, and I'd be delighted to add those to our discussion.
I'll just add, Carl, because I apologize, it might have been miscommunication on my part. This work session, workshop will be the only discussion we have with these two meetings for it. So I did forward the memo that you had prepared to the board, so that should be in your emails as far as documenting a lot of what Carl's gone over. And I'll add a little bit that obviously CORA, the sunshine laws, the conversation about these things are things that we've covered with the board before. Why it's come up since is just, one, as a reminder, it's always good to understand those are still obligations. But two, we know that there are sometimes perceptions and conversations that play out that we've acknowledged over the year. For one, a very simple one, a lot of times people are seeing us, and I'm guilty of it too, texting during the meeting, and conversations have come up of a concern of, is there texting going on outside of the board meeting, for instance? And I'm going to pick on people, but this is not to say it's happening. Let's say Bill is texting Brian, like, wow, what did Christian say during the middle of the meeting? Like, obviously that's not a core, or it is corable, but it's not a violation of something. But if it was a group chat, as we're having those things, it might constitute a meeting under those types of considerations, because even your personal phones to that degree are still suspect of being able to be corable. As an example of where those kind of conversations come from and why we wanted to make sure, just to be aware we cover the content.
I'll even give you an example of something that might be correlable. I texted Bree, Katrina, and Christian earlier in this meeting that I was going to be leaving the meeting for a couple of minutes to take a Bible break. That actually fits the Cora because it's not legal advice. It is not part of my legal function, but it relates to the conduct of business. So that text message, believe it or not, would have to be disclosed under Cora that I took a 3-minute break to head down the hall to the bathroom. So.
I think what I heard there is biologically you're allowed to go to the bathroom, but legally.
So I appreciate the summation and the reminders, Carl. And I think that's good for the public to understand as well what our restrictions are and what we have to follow. But in your, I also want to get this out. In your legal opinion, do you feel that we are following all of the rules in terms of CORA and the open meetings law?
As to both, with respect to CORA, I think this board has been very good and very patient about going through all of the procedural requirements to go into executive session. With respect to CORA, I think staff has been remarkable at working through all of the requirements of the statute, requesting a 7-day extension only when it's truly necessary, and working very diligently to meet those timeframes. I know that there is at least one CORA request that occurred in the last week, and the board should be confident that staff is handling, in my judgment, based on what I know, handling them very, very well, and I am not aware of any facts that give rise to the possibility of an open meeting law violation or abuse of executive session.
Thank you.
Christian, I'm kind of a hands-on person. Can I get a copy, and anybody else, can we get a copy of his notes, whatever it is you're emailing? I'd like a paper copy. I'd like to put it in my file.
Yeah, and I titled it 6 Hot Takes on CORA and the Open Meetings Law. That really is to avoid getting down into the weeds on the law, but letting you know once again, and I think you're very conversant with it, as an overview, all of the strictures of those two laws, why they're important, and how we pay attention to them.
Very good. Any questions? Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
We got follow-up on sheriff's office and other options for security measures. for public meetings?
I'll open up. If it's okay, I might ask Director Pasnick if he's comfortable sharing some of the information I think you found as well. But the overall, I think direction as far as contacting the sheriff's office, seeing if there was the ability for them to be able to have a representative or a either on-duty or off-duty sheriff deputy here, if that would cost, what that would look like, the potential for that engagement. We did get their feedback that they have started including us on their routes, knowing our board meeting schedules, that they would not be able to have somebody who's on duty be on site. And it was actually, I think, you had actually provided some of the costs that had come out since about what it looks like for some of those arrangements. I think we verified the larger one of the two. I'll pull it up now, but if it's okay to.
Yeah, I don't have it. I don't have it in front of me, so I don't remember exactly what it was.
I'll grab it
I
real
sent it
quick.
to you. But it seemed like they had the option of off-duty officers that could post.
Gotcha. So I got it sounds like that there was somebody who had shared that they might do as low as, in some cases, $40 an hour for events, but it seemed the more consistent one, which I think we verified is about $71 per hour for an on-duty officer, but they are required to post 2, which brings it $142 per hour.
Yeah.
Looking at maybe 2 hours per meeting, depending on the Mondays being the ones that are after hours, be about $284 for each meeting that we would do per month, depending on the schedule we're at. That obviously would be about 24 meetings per year, so I can get an ultimate cost, but the ultimate question and discussion here will be, knowing that there's not a free option at this time, the only other thing I think the district can offer is oftentimes we do have staff that might be able to be present to help facilitate if there's a known issue. If we know there's something that's high profile, if we know there's a large employee issue, we have in the past asked for key staff who are either retired or previous to facilitate if they're comfortable doing so, and they've offered that in the past. And that's completely free because they're not hourly employees either. But that's not something we want to continuously do if we don't have to. Unless the board would decide to do that. And otherwise, we would be talking about it, contracting with the sheriff's office for the potential of what that would look like throughout the year. And we're in budget season, so it's a good time to have a conversation.
Right. Oh, nothing.
I'm indifferent. So it's $71, well, $142 an hour if you have
Times 2.
if you have on-duty sheriff's team, and $40 an hour potentially.
Well, I think it was
for off-duty.
only off-duty was the
That was
only
off
option,
duty,
right?
yeah. I don't think there's any option for on duty.
Okay.
So that was off duty. There was one that there might be, and I think you brought this up too, which is a good point. If it's an actual contract and it's not just a ad hoc ones or twos, maybe we could enter into a negotiation or discussion with them to see if we could get that cost down. But the $142 an hour for 2 hours reasonably for a board meeting, and in 23 meetings per year with the old schedule, which is pretty typical, that's about $6,532 per year.
Did you, after I sent you that, did you happen to contact them to confirm that?
I think we confirmed that.
Okay.
I'll double check.
Too bad we can't just carry, you know, solve the problem.
You can't?
I
I don't think we can we?
I'll have to double check for public meeting laws.
Yeah,
That's the only thing I'm not sure about. Public facilities, there are certain restrictions depending on the activity of the facility, and sometimes allows you to either open carry, concealed carry. But I'll have to double check those.
I personally don't feel the need for it.
Yeah.
To the point of what Director Pasnick brought up is, if giving guidance, we would essentially confirm numbers and confirm if there's an option for cost to be reduced based on a long-term contract.
The other option would be to just contract with a outside public safety security office or security company.
Like Titan.
Right? Yeah.
We could also take direction to get quotes from, we use security for some of our events parks. So we could probably, whether it's, at this point, it's the quote threshold, so we could shop around and get quotes.
That might be the best way to go about it if you're really interested in pursuing it. Using the same company for events as we would
You got to
meetings.
remember when you get into private security like that, you have to look at each level of private security. Are you looking for somebody who just carries a pair of handcuffs and a flashlight and pepper spray? Or are you you want somebody who's armed and they qualify regularly, okay? Or arrest authority, you're not gonna get that in a private security, having arrest authority or lawful detention. So, in that aspect, how much control can they truly exude?
That's a good point.
Okay? I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
The mall cops, what do you see them wearing? They don't have arrest authority. They're not carrying sidearms, but they got pepper spray and handcuffs.
Yeah,
Their
I'm not an authority
their
on that.
limited ability of effectiveness in lawful detention is there.
I see
It'd be
armed
no
guards.
different if 5 of us got up and detained somebody ourselves as a citizen arrest, and then lawfully detained them until the sheriff's department got here. So you just gotta keep that in mind. With any position you take in government, there's always an element of danger. Just like taking a shower or getting in the car and driving every day.
Yeah, I had a discussion with someone at the, I guess you could say a deputy, and to that point, he pretty much said if you're gonna do it, make sure it's the sheriff's deputy for that purpose, because they also have the training and the legal authority to do.
That's gonna minimize liability with a deputy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but what's really the impetus? I understand the Charlie Kirk thing was devastating and terrible. But I've been around here for a long time, and I don't think I've ever felt like in danger, bodily danger. You know, you get yelled at a lot, but
Did we just go down?
I went down.
Oh,
I just, to spend $6,000 a year to do that doesn't seem necessary to me.
Yeah, I can't say that I feel I've ever really felt that way either, personally. I just think that it's more of a, I guess, precedent. I don't know if that's the right word, but, and then after attending I brought it up last time, the golf course meeting, and there was like 6 sheriff's deputies there. I know city council has police officers. Just, I don't know. It's, even if after my term expires and something happens, and I had an opportunity here as one of 5 to put something in place to prevent something at some point in the future, for $6,000, I mean, yeah, it's a lot of money. In the grand scheme of things, is a lot of money. I don't know. I think there's other things that we probably spend money on that maybe isn't that necessary, whereas that is maybe more necessary. Am I
I know we're
100% stuck on it? Not really, because I don't personally feel, and never have, that, you know, I'm going to be attacked or something like that. It's just, it almost seems like the professional thing to do, is to just have it there, and it's there. And hopefully we never need it, and hopefully it's a detractor. That's,
I hear.
that's kind of how
A
I
lot
feel
of
about
other
it, I guess.
agencies, like you said, they have that security. I'm not afraid either way, but I understand your point in terms of protecting even those that follow. You know, society continues to get worse and worse, so who's to say
Yeah.
something won't happen a few years from now?
Yeah, I think the world 30 years ago is a lot different than it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
So this,
So the $6,000 figure, is that for both meetings as we're doing it now? That's for how many meetings?
That was 23 meetings a year based on that figure for 2
Okay.
for 2 hours.
Okay.
What about
So
work sessions?
it'd be more if,
No,
Don't you feel any threat for that?
go ahead.
Any more than a meeting? I mean, how far do you take this?
Yeah, so that was just an example of if we do 2 after-hours public meetings. It does not include the work session, for instance. I definitely acknowledge the idea of whether it's now or in the future, carrying on other activities of doing it. Could there be a reason for anything to change in Pueblo West, and now we're reacting to a situation rather than proactive? I definitely recognize that. That's a fair point. Just personally.
yeah. Something to think about.
An option that, knowing this is still something that maybe discuss and get through, is if the board would feel comfortable writing just direction saying, hey, for the next cycle, evaluate and get quotes, either maybe not for 2026, but for 2027 and on, thinking about what that could look like as far as having that, because we would also potentially have evaluation for Wood 79 Spalding as it's built out, have different, I don't know if it would, but it would have had different physical requirements that might make it more or less necessary, considering that.
Windows open to the outside, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Because right now, I think, I don't remember if you had brought it up at the past one, or if you had, Greg.
I did it. There's,
So there's
there's
one
not enough
exit.
egress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
One way in, one way out.
and it's whether there's other security measures we can take into account while still maintaining a public meeting. Whereas this one is challenging because it's not our facility and not our building, and it's a room essentially not assigned to be a public room.
Okay.
Thoughts
I know
on that?
we're constantly under budget as far as the board budget line. So I know there's money that we could spend towards something like this. I don't know, do you want them to move forward with just seeing how much it would cost or what a contract would look
Looking
like?
at cost isn't gonna, it's not gonna financially impact us. You know, looking at it, we can talk about it again.
Okay.
We're not making a decision right now, so.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say maybe find out what it would be. I'm just thinking in terms of like if you did sign a month-to-month lease versus a 12-month lease, it's
I-
typically increased if you're month-to-month, so see
Yeah.
what the rate would be for an annual contract with them.
Gotcha. If I can confirm, what I'm thinking of taking away from this is essentially evaluate any PCSO or private options, the pros and cons of each, the cost associated with each, for what would look like a year or a year-to-year potential contract for that, and see at least what those cost options, and again, advantage, disadvantage, to your point, are they level 1, more like just show of force, versus they have maybe level 2, level 3.
You want
where it's
somebody who
more-
can go DEFCON 5 if they have to.
Yeah, that where they can actually do arrest or detain, and see what those options look like, and represent it back to the board sometime in the next month or two.
And find out, can a Titan Security actually throw somebody out of the building? If they can't do that, then I wouldn't even look at them.
I do think we'll have to evaluate also whether we publicly or privately, whether we own the building or not, if there's any constellation, any
That's a good point
considerations
too.
for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we go Robert's Rules of Orders and you appoint a sergeant at arms. The other thing is the height in patrols. So if we could have them patrol between like, let's say 5 o'clock to 5:45, and then once the meeting commences, if they got to respond or whatever, if they could be here. Are we just talking about the Monday meetings or the work sessions?
We've only been talking about the Monday meeting so
That's
far.
what I thought.
Mainly because the activity.
Because you said 23 and it hit me just now.
Yeah.
So then maybe later in the evening, like 8:30?
We can share with them when we think, obviously when our meetings take place, and identify where we think the most likely pain points could be early on in a meeting. That's usually when public comment comes up. Public hearings are later on when there might be a executive session, personnel matter or something. We always let them know.
Yeah, so I think they'd probably be the least expensive route since they're willing to do it and it's on shift.
Off shift. Oh, you're talking about the patrol or the actual?
Patrol,
Okay, yes. There's no cost
just
associated.
outside the building,
Yeah.
just drive by, nice and slow roll, public appearance, let people see that they're available and, you know. Yeah. Not necessarily a show of force or a show of security, but it's the visibility. That's probably 60 to 75% of your impact on those that would even think about doing anything. The other 25% is they got to build up the courage to move forward with it. And I ain't got most of them doing it. I'll take them on.
Any other thoughts, or is that a good direction for me to go forward with? All right. Thank you very much.
Public comments?
We have not received any public comments.
I know you don't have director comments on here, but I did want to bring up, Christian, sometime, I don't care if it's today or at some point, I would still like some in-depth conversation about your decision to close the offices Monday.
So we have open discussion if you'd like to, or it might not be listed, apologies, but other than that, and I did send the information to the board, so I'd open up if there's any questions about it.
Was that the information that contained the hardships?
I sent a follow-up describing what some of those hardships were.
Oh,
I didn't go specific of people.
I haven't seen it. Oh, family member,
Yeah, there's
yeah.
medical issues, family member deaths, friends' deaths. Personal
And I guess the direction that I am going is, do we not have benefits in place for employees to be able to address those concerns, or take time off, or unpaid leave, or paid leave, or, I mean, the district does provide benefits for that. And then an additional cost impact to the district for those people that have to go to work. What are we paying them additionally? So I'm just wanting to try to understand it a little bit more.
Okay. Would you like me to read the?
You can read it if you want.
Sure. So I'll share this. President Vickers asked for a follow-up as far as some of the context for the decision. I just shared that over the past several months, we have observed a notable increase in the number of employees experiencing personal hardships, including serious illness of both staff and immediate family members, loss of loved ones, and personal strains. We also recognize that many employees experience silent struggles that may not be as visible. Stressors continue to impact our workforce in ways that affect not only individual well-being, but also team cohesion and safety. These challenges have had a visible impact on overall morale and well-being across the organization. We felt it was important to acknowledge these circumstances and take a proactive step to support our staff's mental health and resilience. The decision to authorize this day closely aligns with our district core values of integrity, respect, and stewardship. By recognizing the humanity of our workforce and the challenges they face, we demonstrate integrity in our leadership and respect for the people who keep this district running each day. Furthermore, this action represents good stewardship and investment in the long-term stability and safety and performance of our team. Allowing staff an opportunity to pause, reset, and return refresh helps prevent burnout, reduce the likelihood of workplace errors or safety incidents, and ultimately strengthens productivity and service delivery. The financial impact of a loss of a normal day is negligible, with no qualification for additional pay due to a non-emergency closure. Additionally, our essential services do continue, and most non-essential services for the public can be done online, limiting the disruption to our businesses and service activities. I offer that it aligns with our strategic plan priority of maintaining organizational health while promoting and fostering a culture where employees feel valued, supported, and equipped to give their best to the community we serve. I believe that extending this holiday contributes positively to that culture and by extension to the overall health and effectiveness of the district. So that was the actual, I'll say more formal response for it. The idea of this is that historically, whether this organization, even past organizations I've been in, oftentimes when there's that holiday that occurs on a Tuesday or Thursday, and the normal work week may be Monday through Friday, you have that 1 day of work, 1 day off, return to work, or 3 days of work, day off, return to work, the weekend. That can sometimes occur. Many organizations recognize this and actually try to strategize to ensure that doesn't happen. It's not to say we can't overcome a loss of productivity, but it is pretty human to come in after a day off on a Friday knowing you're going into the weekend and reduce your productivity. Similarly, coming off a weekend, going into a Monday, feeling a little bit like I'm going to be off tomorrow and not thinking about work as heavily. Knowing those situations do happen and recognizing the human impact to it can align with also recognizing that at the end of the day, a non-emergency closure, which is what this is, allows that recognition for those folks in those positions that normally they could take a 4-day weekend, they could choose themselves to take that PTO, Sometimes the stressors of work, at least from personal experience and a lot of us, is that you will not take off work if you feel like you are already behind on work. So I will share pretty honestly, I will have a lot of PTO that probably gets sacrificed if not donated towards the end of the year because I typically do not take as much and I get yelled at constantly, usually by Jess and Katrina, if not Brian. So there are folks who, if they are not given an opportunity to do that, they continue to burn themselves out doing it. I'm not speaking that for myself. I'm invincible, I'll never fall, I'm still young. But the idea of it just recognizes those folks who are going through it. Just like, I could probably share some of the feedback that announcement did, if anybody's comfortable reading it. The people who recognize that, yes, I probably could have taken a day off, or maybe I don't have PTO to take that day off, but recognizing there are stressors and doing this in such a way that has a very minimal impact to the district's operation has been something that I think was the intent of the district manager having that authority in the non-emergency closures where it could happen in those case-by-case basis. We've only had 2 closures so far this year for snow. Both were in January, and this is the only one we've announced for a non-emergency closure, just for reference.
Are they budgeted? Closures budgeted?
So it's no change. Essentially, yes, because it's whether you're off or whether you're on, it's still the same pay. Holiday pay, PTO, salary, that's still paid at that same rate. The only ones that oftentimes cost more is those emergency closures because the essential pay, which we did the evaluation analysis of the cost association with that. It's pretty minimal compared to the impact. So it is more cost associated with it, but not I think it was like a couple thousand as far as those occurrences that occur.
I think his question might have related to, like, are there so many holidays every year that you expect to give? Is there a policy or a bylaw or whatever that there are so many holidays every year that you're gonna put on the calendar for employees?
Meaning like non-emergency closures, not the approved ones, or both?
Holidays,
There are
like
approved
paid holidays.
Yes.
That's
there are.
basically what this was. It was a,
Yeah, there are paid holidays. They're part of the budget process and budgeted. These non-emergency closures don't constitute any additional pay in those situations. So there's no budgetary difference whether there's people here working that day or not. There's only a productivity difference.
You're paying them for not work-
yeah,
for not
it's a
working.
paid holiday.
It's paid holiday.
Yes, but
So,
yes,
I mean,
budget.
get over the language of it. It's a paid holiday. So if you have so many paid holidays that you have scheduled every year, and you say, whoops, we scheduled this paid holiday, and there's a Friday right after there. We should have assigned one of our paid holidays to that Friday at the start of our calendar work year, or our work calendar year.
So then people, for instance, 4th of July, that would mean somebody's working, all people are working 4th of July if it happens on Thursday, or we reassigned it to Friday, which might be the 5th.
No, it depends on how many holidays you have every year to schedule.
So he's talking about, so if 4th of July is on Thursday,
Yep.
and you close the office on Friday,
Correct.
Yeah.
People work 4th of
But
July.
you have that scheduled in advance.
no, they're off on 4th of July, right? That's a holiday.
Right.
But you close the office on Friday?
Oh, that's what we're doing
Yeah, yeah.
essentially, yes.
Yeah.
But
But Tuesday's a holiday, right? Tuesday's the holiday.
I got super confused in this conversation. So to answer your question, that I
So-
showed President Vickers real quick, there's no budget pay difference for announcing a non-emergency closure. There's no pay change for it. To your point, could we schedule those days as approved holidays on days that
Yeah,
otherwise
just in
don't?
advance.
We do observances, but that doesn't constitute for the ones that holidays are recognized on the actual day, like 4th of July, Christmas Eve. Those may happen in the middle of the week. And so if we change some of those, not say we can't look at the next year and say, hey, could we change this one in March to this one in
So on
August.
Thanksgiving week, what are your paid holidays?
Thursday, Friday.
Yeah, Thursday is always for that one, but 4th of July is the perfect example. It can happen any day of the week. That's an approved holiday that we're gonna be off.
Right.
That can happen on a Tuesday, in which we have this situation occur.
I guess the question is, are you gonna close the office on Monday?
That's what we have historically done, is if it falls on that Tuesday or Thursday. Wednesdays, I don't think we've done in the past.
I think
I
you
don't
should
think
schedule it in
yeah.
advance. If you see it coming up with a calendar, just schedule it.
So,
Look at the next calendar year and say, okay, these are gonna be our paid holidays for this year.
but
And you bring that to the board and you say, this is what we propose.
in those situations, so coming into the personnel policy for this one, for instance, we recognize that's gonna happen in 2026. Are you asking or suggesting if we see that happen, we would add an additional holiday for that day.
Okay. That's fair.
I think I understand what you're saying.
But I still don't understand that there's no financial impact, because the people that have to report to work, they're just coming to work and they're okay with everybody else getting the day off and they don't get anything?
I don't think they're okay with it.
But
To
that's
say
what's
that.
happening?
That is what essentially happens, because otherwise it would be pay or rotate them essentially an essential day off, or another non-essential day
How do they
off.
feel about that? Is that fair?
I've gotten at least one person who has feedback of, obviously it doesn't feel fair, because they're having to come into work.
Can I help with this?
Which
I dealt with this all the time.
scheduling in
Um,
advance would help, I think.
Not in that situation, because they still wouldn't have that day off.
But they'd get-
So
Sorry.
traditionally, the federal government, if it was a Thursday, like Thanksgiving coming up, they would designate Friday as being an additional paid administrative day,
Right.
okay? If it was a Tuesday, it would be a Monday.
Right.
But if it was Wednesday in the middle of the week, they wouldn't do it. Here's the thing though, if that was your day off, or you had to come to work, they still have to give you an additional day off
Right.
in lieu of missing that administrative day.
So we do that for approved or, I believe, observed holidays. So if it was that 4th of July, for instance, somebody had worked there are ways to be able to do that. Or they get a sense of emergency closures, what's called essential pay, which I'll double check what that rate is for within a policy. I think it's time and a half. But there isn't anything in policy right now for what you had said, is that it's a non-emergency closure being called. Essential still have to report. We typically leave it up to department directors to identify as their way to rotate through a cycle of that, but it doesn't always work out for essential because of their schedules for it. If we were to either introduce the idea that we schedule it out, and those situations do exist, it gives at least the idea of being able to project that out and see if there's a way to rotate it. But the only other alternative would be to either do essential pay for those days, which I think we've evaluated as the idea of essential pay exists, that there are extenuating circumstances for which usually create a hazard, inclement weather. We're closing the offices. This person has to come in and work. This person does not, because non-essential. That's where essential pay takes into place. It only happens on days where that existing condition happens. It doesn't happen on weekends, doesn't happen on days that this person wouldn't have to come in. So open to feedback on different ways to do it. For instance, if we want to schedule those things out.
I still go back to, private industry. Private industry doesn't have the luxury that government does. Everybody refers to government, what all governments do, which is spend tax money. And private industry isn't afforded the same luxury. I don't think, there may be a few offices that are closed Monday, but there are a lot of people that have to go to work Monday. There are people that look, I lived through emotional turmoil for 10 years with my wife. There were a lot of things that I had to do that, would have been nice if things were different, but, in reality, we're all subject to how we live and the circumstances we live in. To me, we as a district give the employees a lot of flexibility and a lot of benefit to be able to take time off at their concern. To close an office, were there not enough people to show up to staff the office at all? I mean, was everybody in such emotional disarray or having problems that there would be nobody to show up if they took personal time?
I think the problem is the explanation of it. If you just want to call it, that's just why I'm saying it's better to just schedule it. So if you have a holiday on a Thursday and you want the offices to be closed on Friday, which is common, then just go ahead and schedule it and not say it's a non-emergency day off and send out an email saying that there's, hardships and this and that and the other. Just call it for what it is. Because I think to Bill's point, if people do have hardships and it's not, and it just pertains to, a certain population in the district, then that's what PTO is for.
Right. I'll give you an example. I got 5 kids that work for the federal government. 3 of them's not getting paid right now, and they still gotta go to work. Okay? One's in the Army, another one's a cybersecurity watchdog for an agency with the DOJ. I don't know if he's getting paid, because I haven't asked him that question, but I know my son in the Army is. Okay, so there's people already complaining about having to go to work and not getting paid, right? So now you got people not going to work and getting paid. Two disparities. Okay, so, I understand his perspective and where it's coming from. That it's, especially as spur of the moment notification that it was. I would rather have people at work, just like my daughter's gonna be at work on Monday, and she ain't getting paid. So, but, then the other two in South Carolina, so they're not getting paid.
Yeah, I agree. If it's, you know,
There's a lot of
relegated to
dynamics
a
going
few
on in
people,
our
they
country
could-
and our community right now, with not getting paid or receiving benefits, but, still, if they're physically able to come to work and enjoy the holiday the following day, they should work for their money, and I agree with that.
Yeah, I think that if it's relegated to certain people, then they, you know, it goes to the PTO, and if you don't have it, is it FMLA? If not, then suck it up and show up. I mean,
Fair enough.
I don't know. But it's like you know what you're getting into when you have that circumstance. I think, to Brian's point, I think if you're gonna do that, then schedule it ahead of time, and that way it can flush out in the ahead of time.
Just to follow up, 'cause I think there are a couple of points I know I want to take. One, as far as private industry, we did take a look at that just to ensure that there are folks who provide, we'll call them mental health days, it's most common. I think Troper, comparison to it, Lowe's, Nike, Google, large companies obviously provide a lot of those kind of benefits, so it does exist outside the public sector. Two, the only thing I think concerns me is that the thought is that this was intended to be a holiday as just like, let's call it, and then try to make another excuse for it. That was not the intent. I would encourage anybody who would like to stop by 63. I think there are some folks who would be happy to talk, explain what's going on there. Maybe not happy to talk about what's in their personal lives, but there are instances that led to this being a recommendation from folks who are experiencing that and recognizing not everybody talks about what somebody might be experiencing in 10 years or a good time for something that they might have wished that moment could have happened, where it's that recognition. So I think there's a little bit of predisposed, I think, concern around the thought of this being called as it was, but I don't want to highlight that it was called for that reason, just to mask something else. There are folks who are struggling, and we want to recognize that. We've seen appreciation for that. But I don't disagree with the idea of being able to schedule it out or recognizing that there are folks who don't get that same benefit if it's not scheduled out. That doesn't exist. So I do acknowledge those.
It's probably something we could have for bigger discussion at some
Yeah.
point. But I just felt it needed to be brought up a little bit.
It's, especially as Greg mentioned, I think it was great. You know, just in this environment, government shutdown, Congress still getting paid, it looks bad. And if it's just some individuals, it's probably should have been handled in a PTO scenario. You can donate PTO, we've already talked about that, if that person doesn't have any at the time. Or, you know, if the purpose really was that, yeah, you're gonna lose productivity if you have to come back on a Friday after a holiday or whatever the case might be, or come in Monday just to have off Tuesday. You know, people aren't gonna really wanna work or whatever the case might be on that Monday. Then just schedule out the holiday.
That's fair. I've been in that position. I was in the last government shutdown when I was in the military, so very empathetic and sympathetic. I don't think it should avoid us having empathy for others.
I've been
Don't
through
let
like
anything the
8
same.
continuing resolutions.
Yeah, not fun.
Also, I think just in general, and I mean, this again, we could do a bigger conversation or whatever, but I don't know how much we have a role to play in this or not, but I wouldn't even be opposed to if someone has this very specific circumstance that you become aware of, and you could bring it to us and say, I'm not opposed to, in fact, paying someone for being off if they have some type of emergency that, again, I'll use the sick child, the newborn that is, you know, sick, or maybe they have cancer, or they themselves have cancer, something like that. I mean, I'd love to, in certain circumstances, be a blessing to that family. I know small businesses do that, do certain things. I don't know the purview of us as a government and whether or not you could present those type of cases to us, because I think more on the small business side, if you have a board of directors, you would, as the CEO, you would take that before them, or like a nonprofit or something, and say, hey, do you think we should?
Gotcha.
This is a case that we have, you know.
We did that in one instance with an individual had an issue that I don't think it qualified for FMLA. The difficulty, and when it comes to the board, just as a large thing, is that, to a point that you brought up earlier, making sure we're consistent about how we do things. That's me, board, not necessarily one or the other. But for instance, this non-emergency closure is a delegated authority that I have the ability to be able to do within the personnel policy. The PTO donation was actually a solution for those situations, so that way we could ideally, everybody's donating what they would like to, be able to resolve those things. So that way we don't have to create those concerns of inconsistency or favoritism, and we have the ability to hopefully address a need that otherwise couldn't have been addressed. But I definitely understand the point.
That's it.
I guess, motion to adjourn. Right?
Second.
I think so.
We're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. See you Monday.